Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Apologies for the later start here tonight. Me and Kelly got carried away with a little conversation off air that we were going to keep off air. It's not broadcastable, I don't think. So apologies for the late start to the show today. We'll find somebody on the circuit. It is Dan Davis at the moment. Before we get into introductions, well, we can do all them on the formation. We'll just run through the championship standings very quickly. It's turning into a two-horse race. 52 points the gap between Self and Tardock. 126 points back is O'Reilly. It's then Hooper, Davis, Rook, Overtaker, Will Friedman, Matt Wright, Jamal Clouden, Mike Matthews, Patrick Ledger, Michael Harris, Skrunky, Viper Hoffer, Carlos, Leach, McGowan, Calseth, O'Brien, Williams, Bates, Richie Collin, Pocket 2. We haven't seen them all season. Four teams can win that Constructors' Championship. Only one team is really going to do that. It could be done tonight. I don't think it's going to be with such a short grid. But MSA are 318 points clear of Team Audio Sport. They're 100 points clear of SimPlay Racing. So possibly maybe a little battle starting to develop there. There is still 639 points left up for grabs. Greasy Bandits then are a little further back from SimPlay Racing. They're the four teams that can win it, and it's Old School Racers, Quantum Motorsport, Team FBR, Team SPR, Effect Motorsport, Red Rum Racing. That is your championship standings. And welcome to Oulton Park. We're here home. We're back home at SimPlay. We're back in Britain. Not at the home of SimPlay though. That will come in a fortnight's time to round out the championship once again. And if you missed the calendar news yesterday, we revealed the calendar, obviously, and we said that the Patreons would get to pick the morning, night and day races. I made a little mistake. Donington Park will end the season of 13 tracks once again as the home of SimPlay Racing. So I will go through a little later on that calendar once again for you. But Kelly, good evening to yourself. Hope you're well.
Good evening. If anybody's worried about what me and Matt were discussing off air, don't worry about it. It was only what dresses we were going to wear for the drag event at Oulton Park British Touring Car Championships, but we're not going to clash, so don't worry.
Because that was a real concern.
It was a real concern, yeah, absolutely. Imagine we turned up in the same dress. Oh my God. Just no, terrible. We are at Oulton Park, and mate, we're at the sharp end of the season now, aren't we? It's all getting serious now. Only a couple of weeks left to go, and some great tracks. But we're here at Oulton Park, or the footpath, as I like to call it. It's narrow, it's tight, and who's going to be quick, Matt?
Well, who is going to be quick? Because this is going to be an interesting one tonight. We've got a lot of drivers that are very capable around here. But look at this grid order. We've got no Gary Leach. We've got no Brandon Williams for tonight. They can't make tonight's race. The grid is down to 13 cars for this evening. So, chat, hopefully you'll stick around. Hopefully we'll get to see some great racing. But get your comments in, and we'll have a great chat definitely through that hour's race, because there will be some lulls, I expect. But what a tight grid, because Dan likes to describe it, and I love the way Dan describes this track. It is the Monaco of British circuits, and it is so true, so tight, so twisty, so bumpy, Kelly, for a race circuit.
Yeah, it's so hard to overtake.
Yeah.
Very little opportunities to overtake at all. This reverse grid race is going to be fascinating, so don't go anywhere. Race 2, well, it's going to be about qualifying, really. You can put it furthest up the grid. Although, like Monaco, it's very easy to make a mistake round here.
Yeah.
Very easy to get on the grass. You could see some people in the wall, and certainly down by the hairpin. That's quite a popular one. You run wide onto the grass and end up in the wall before the hairpin. So thrills and spills, but it's about track position.
It's all about track position. We've also got that worry of track limits. The exit of turn 1 is an absolute horrendous one. The grid order is on camera for you now. I'm not going to read it out just at the moment, but track limits at the exit of turn 1, very, very harsh. Also, as you come through Druids, the double right-hander, on the exit of there, it can be very harsh as well. So track limits could be a key thing to keep our eyes on tonight. It's going to provide great drama. It did in Pro-Am last night, and it did in the GT4s on Tuesday. But this is going to be, I think, an interesting one. Race winner in this first race. Pit stops could be the key here.
Yes, they could be, and as I said, it's keeping it on the track, and just that. Just bring up a point about that turn 1 you were saying, Matt. Yes, the track limit is very strict on the game, but the touring cars, for real, abuse that limit quite a lot. So the real world limit of that corner is a lot further out than the game will let you. You know, so the other tricky bit. as the field are coming round to go through this chicane just after the hairpin. This is an eye of a needle chicane, this one. If you don't get it right, you bump the curb, you're off on the grass, or you're bumping over the curb, spin the back end of the car around. It's a difficult one to get right, isn't it, Matt?
100%, and it's a really tricky part of the circuit to get right. It's the Britain chicane. It's going to catch a lot of people out. Easy to go on that grass on the exit of it, which then affects that run down over the hilltop straight in towards the Hislop chicane.
Yeah. I mean, there could be thrills and spills as we see some tyres already flying off just before Knickerbrook. Someone's already clouted the tyres on the formation lap.
Yeah.
That won't do their aero any good, will it?
Well, they're not like the Project Cars tyres. These fly away like polystyrene, not cemented into the ground so that when you hit it, you remain in the tyres. They was naughty on Project Cars. So I remember people hitting them and just coming to a sudden stop and being like, oh no, my car's now buggered.
God himself for those in. And
my
they could
God,
not be moved.
They was rooted. They was built in the surfaces of Oulton Park, it felt like. But either way, we're about to get underway here. It is Carlos from Hoffa with Patrick Ledger, who's won the sprint race last week. He's got a couple of sprint race wins here. I'm sure he'd love to take another one. Mike Matthews P4 with Jamal Clouden. Matt Wright, then it's Will Friedman, Ben Rook, Dan Davis, Ben Hoopert, Kevin O'Reilly, David Silf and Tardock bringing up the rear. As we can say good evening to Peaceful Stepdad Tips. Attended Genie, that is Ben Hoopert in the chat. Peaceful Stepdad again. Gary Clarbel and Susie's Cream Cheese and Robert Ramsell as well. As for the first time this evening, we are about to get underway. It is green and go here at Oulton Park for the start of this race. They all tried to filter in together. Jamal and Matt Wright still side by side. Mike nearly into the back of Patrick Ledger, just going to drop down the order a little bit. Clouden's now got a run on Mike Matthews coming out of the turn 1 corner down in towards Cascades. They come for that first time. This is a really tricky corner, very easy to understeer wide, and Mike manages to hang on in front there as we drop down the pack. Dan and Ben all through okay. O'Reilly lost out to one of the Fords. I believe that is Tardock who he's lost out to. So that is a change for position there. But all looking good, Kelly, at the start of this race as Dan's going round the outside of Ben at the hairpin corner. The shallow is hairpin. Dan gets the move done. That's a lovely move from the Porsche driver.
Yeah, only taking back what he lost, mind. He lost out to Ben in the first stages. He was ahead of him in the first stage, so he got that back. I'm on board with Tardock. He went side by side down through Cascades with O'Reilly. O'Reilly's now behind him and losing a little bit of ground. Silth made no positions whatsoever. As we said, difficult to overtake, and that was reflected in the start, I feel.
He was reflected in the start as Jamal was looking to the outside of Mike Matthews through the Hislop chicane up through Knickerbrook now onto Clay Hill. They come then for this first lap around here. Good evening to Martin in the chat, and it's Mike Matthews causing a bit of a train with Jamal Clouden, Will Friedman, Matt Wright, then Dan Davis and Ben Rook now becoming a bit of a train behind Dan's. There's three little groups at the moment forming out there today. Ben Hoopert has changed the livery for his commentator. He's put a bit of blue on the car and he's actually having a look then onto that of Ben Rook, but can't do anything through the final corner, as Will Friedman as well had a look there on Jamal Clouden. Dan Davis now has a run, and a great run on Matt Wright. Nissan pulls back in front though, and the Nissan manages to stay in front.
Straight line speed on that Nissan, although he got wide out of turn 1, but the straight line speed on that Nissan just saved his life there. Dan had a bit of a run, but couldn't make it stick. With that, good evening to everyone in the chat. Please keep the comments going. We want to you to be as interactive as you possibly can this evening. We might need it later.
Jamal Clouden had a big flick out there and a look on Mike Matthews coming through then that of the Island Bend corner into the Shell Oils hairpin for the second time in this race. Carlos stretching his legs. Tobias Hoffa in that big Bentley becoming a problem for Patrick Ledger as Mike's having a look at Ledger into the Britain chicane. You're not going to get it done through there, and Mike bounces over the curb. That made Jamal Clouden just tap the rear, maybe avoid the rear, but it's put Will Friedman right onto the back of him here then. Dan Davies still attacking the back of Matt Wright, and Dan's actually going to have a look. No, pulls back in behind, thinks better of it for the time being, but this big Bentley, and I tell you what, you don't want to be behind the Mustang or the Bentley around here, because not only is it tight and twisty, but to pinpoint your braking markers will be absolutely crucial, sat behind them great big tanks of a car, and you feel that the Bentley could be in a good position to get a good result here tonight, maybe a pro podium as Friedman a little drifty through Druid's corner then. And down towards Lodge they come as Ben Rock. Huge moment there for the Audio Sport driver. That's put Hooper side by side with him into Old Hall. Round the outside. There's going to be a brave move for Hooper to go round the outside there. It's not the easiest one to do because it puts you on the back foot on the run down towards Lodge of turn 1. Ben is still on the inside. That of Ben Rook, should I say. Hooper's going to go the long way round the outside. This one is more doable. Contact is made. Hooper is around. And Ben Rook has to wait stationary, or doesn't have to, but remains stationary. He was one that tapped the back of Hooper there.
Yeah, he got a little bit all crossed up on the apex. Car started to drift out wide. That then made contact with Hooper, sent Hooper round. Ben did the right thing and waited for him, but it's both of their races compromised, unfortunately.
Yeah, that'll be their races ruined in this one. Patrick Ledger now is just allowed the Bentley to get away from him a little bit. And we've got him, Mike Matthews, Jamal Clouden and Will Freeman. Little gap back to Matt Wright. That's Constantine it up through the Britain chicane. And Clouden looking for a great run out of Britons on the back of Mike Matthews here. This is looking back from the rear wing of Mike Matthews. You see into the Hislop chicane that Jamal's going to try around the outside. Now onto the inside. Mike gives him the room. Dan Davis is off. In the background we saw on the rear wing of Mike Matthews that Dan Davis has made a mistake and he's off. And he's lost out to everybody bar Hoopert and Ben. But I tell you what, that was a great angle on the rear wing. You just saw how close that queue was to the back of Mike Matthews' car.
Absolutely, and it's knife-edge stuff here, Matt. It's one of those races, isn't it? It looks fast and furious, but very little positions are going to be made.
Yeah.
Will Freeman tried to tuck up the inside before that incident with Dan. He tried to get up the inside. This is another thing. When you start to try and do something different by going around the outside of the car in front, you leave yourself vulnerable from the car behind. And being that they're such close racing, you've got to be looking forward and backwards all the time.
You constantly watching your mirror. Right. Constantly watching your mirrors and looking forward. Tordock to the outside of Cascades. That's a brave man to make the move around the outside of Cascades corner. Close. You're not really going to get that one done. That is the least favoured overtaking point, I reckon, on this circuit. That's allowed O'Reilly onto the back of Tordock here then. And this is a real good scrap here between everybody. But Carlos out front, well, he's doing the job he needs to, Kelly. While everybody else is scrapping, he's 2.5 seconds up the road. Tobias Hoffer in that Bentley, he's pulled that bit of a gap over Ledger, who's no longer under as immense pressure from Mike Matthews. But I'm sure Mike, sitting in P4, will be taking this at the moment. Not had a great season as Mike... should be wanting to have a good one here. Clouden pulls out, has a look, tucks back in. The bonus for Dan and Hoopert and Ben at the back of this field, while all these drivers are scrapping and fighting for places, Kelly, this should allow them to come...
Tardock's round. Dropped it before Lickerbrook.
There we go then. So he's lost
power.
Yeah, and he's only lost out the 2 places with the looks of that to O'Reilly himself. But what I was saying, Kelly, is with all these drivers fighting hard, this should allow Dan and Hoopert and Rook to gain back onto the back of this train.
Tardock just didn't go all the way round, just lost it under power, a little bit too much or lack of traction, and the back end went round. As you say, only lost a couple of places, but
Ledger's in, Clouden's in.
Now, Clouden's in.
So 2 of the top 3 pitting. Matt Wright, O'Reilly comes into the pits as well. Dan stays out, as does Hooper, as does Ben Rook. So I'm surprised, because track position is key. I'm surprised that Dan didn't think of maybe making a pit stop there, or the back 3 didn't maybe think of making a pit stop. I suppose the grid is that small and they're all still close together that you look at that, for O'Reilly, for Cloud and for Ledger, you're going to come out in clear air because there's nobody else really on the track that is way behind that you're going to come out in. So it's Carlos from Hoffer, from Mike, from Friedman. That's your top 4. Friedman within a couple of tenths of Mike Matthews now that he's been released. Ben's just set the fastest lap of the race. He's trying to put down after Hooper. Ledger pit stop done and dusted. Out he comes. Clouden's is done and dusted. O'Reilly's is done and dusted. And out the pits they come. And as they come out the pit lane, I'm going to jump to Jamal Clouden when he comes off the limiter. O'Reilly is a lot closer to Clouden in the pit. So decent stop that from O'Reilly. And he's got himself a lot closer to Jamal Clouden than what it was before the pit stops with cars between them.
Yes, indeed. And... I'm on board with Dan at the moment. Going to go back to Rook. Dan not pulling away from Hooper. Hooper not under pressure from Ben. Let's see who takes the pit. They've got 7 minutes left to pit, so got a couple of laps yet if you want to go long. I don't know what's more powerful, the undercut or the overcut here. I would have thought the undercut.
It's just track position here, I suppose, is the real winner. Tobias Hoffer in, Will Friedman comes into the pit as well. That is, I believe, Sylph and Tarlock in the background. Sorry, who's in the pits, because Sylph going side by side with Matt Wright in towards turn 1. Wright gives him the room and respect through Lodge. They're still together as they're going to come down now towards Cascades. Sylph now chops the nose off. I say chops the nose off, pulls in front, merges like on the motorway, and Sylph takes that place from Matt Wright. And that's a good move. That's really the best chance, isn't it, Kelly? Get the run out the final corner, get alongside into turn 1. That's your best chance of an overtake here.
Yes, absolutely. Turn 1 is a possibility, that's for sure. There's lots of little possibilities, but you've got to have a real overlap speed to make it happen, you know. So Sylph with a good move there, nice and clean, no way to do it.
Indeed it was. So Matt Wright's got to try and hunt back down after Sylph. Just looking at Will Friedman. He's come off the limiter, and Friedman is behind Patrick Ledger. Will Friedman's jumped Jamal Clouden. An absolute peach in the pits. What happened to Jamal then? Because he is a long way back from that of Will Friedman. Tobias Hoffer also has had a nightmare pit stop. He's lost out to Tardock and O'Reilly and Clouden and Will Friedman and, in fact, Patrick Ledger. So he's come off the worst here in the pits. But Jamal Clouden, 3 seconds behind Will Friedman. He's had a nightmare of a pit stop.
Yeah, I don't know if he made a mistake somewhere that we didn't see, or as you said, could have had a rubbish pit stop. Could have missed his marks. That'll cost you a couple of seconds.
Missed his marks. I wonder if he also maybe changed tyres by mistake, left, without flicking the switch on the changing tyres button. That'll cost you 5 seconds. But yeah, who knows? Only Jamal will know. But that's kind of ruined his race, because he's lost out to Will Friedman now. He's got O'Reilly close to the back of him. And you just wonder then that with this traffic all staying out, the top 7 did not pit. We're watching Ben Ruck on the back of Hooper. So the top 7 didn't pit. You just wonder that, Dan's not got Matt Wright really to worry about, has he? That gap's 3.1 seconds. So Dan's kind of got clear air. Sylph's kind of got clear air. So's Matt Wright. So's Mike. So's the leader. Ben's the only one that's really in any dirty air, because he's under a second to Hooper. So
what are you thinking? That these guys must be thinking, if we go long in clean air, we can get some decent lap times under the belt and maybe make the difference.
That's 100% what I'm thinking, because you look down the order now. Ledger's got Friedman within 6/10. Clouden has got O'Reilly, who's just done the fastest lap of the race within 7/10. Tardock's within half a second. So, that's 2 bundles of cars that's already pitted that are close to each other in dirty air being affected. Whereas Carlos to Mike's 5 seconds, Mike to Sylph's 2.6, Sylph to Matt Wright's 1.9, Matt Wright to Dan Davies 2.5, Dan to Hooper 1.9. So even Hooper's kind of okay, unless Ben starts to put him under more pressure. Ben's not putting him under pressure, but what Ben has got is that dirty air within that second mark of that Ford Mustang.
I mean, for example, Dan is certainly doing lap 5 and lap 6 have been his best laps by quite some margin in the 33s. So they've been his best laps. So he's getting his head down for sure. I'll have a look at someone else. Sylph, again, Sylph is in the mid 33s. Last 3 laps now have been in the 33s. So he's getting his head down and getting those lap times down.
They all are, Kelly. Just looking at them here on the timing screens next to me. Carlos again, lap 7, 33.3. I'm going to wait for the timing screen to update with everybody else's lap 7, but they're all lapping in the 33s. Matt Wright was a 34 last time around. He's the only one who's not lapping in that 33s. Yeah. But Dan's still 2.6 from him. I think if Dan was to be any closer to Matt Wright, Dan would have probably aborted and gone into the pit lane, because he doesn't want to be too close to a car that's going to cause dirty air and upset that Porsche. Dropping down to Ledger and Friedman, that's within 1/10 of a second. Ledger defending the inside line as they come towards turn 1. Friedman then here in towards the first corner, not going to make the move. He's not close enough at the moment, and that's going to keep him behind. He does get good traction, but again, the outside of Cascades, it's not an overtaking opportunity, and that's partly why, because you end up touching that really, because that curb is raised. It's quite raised around here, or some of the curbs, and that unsettled the Porsche. And look in the background, there's Clouden, there's O'Reilly, there's Tardock, all lapping well, but are all in that dirty air.
Absolutely. And if you think that this is looking, that it looks fantastic and lovely here at Oulton Park, then come and join us on the British Touring Car Weekend, 22nd, 23rd of June. We'll be there, and you want to come and say hello and
ask for an autograph, or
I don't know whose autograph we're going to give you. We can get some for you.
Oh, Will Friedman's got a run on Patrick Ledger. He didn't have the best of runs out of the Britain chicane. On the brakes later is the Porsche driver of Friedman into Hislop's, and that is the move done. Will Friedman Up the inside, that's a place now as Matt Wright and Matthews pit. So Dan doing the opposite to Matt Wright there. Possibly a clever tactic because he now is running third on the road and has got a huge gap back to Sylph, which is just going to allow him to still have that clean air. They could go one more lap after that one, but then would have to pit. Would the top 5 now as Mike Matthews and Matt Wright in. So Will Friedman, lead pit runner. Let's see where Mike Matthews comes out, because he was in a race with Friedman and Clouden. He's just gone green now. And when's he going to come out of that pit limiter? Then he's off it now, and Mike Matthews will comfortably, or should comfortably, stay in front. There he is. There's Freeman. Easily. Yeah, nice and comfortably. Got a run, says Monkey Boy. We're trademarking that one from Kieran Argent. That's up there with my getting quicker, my mate. Is that one from Kieran?
Right up there, yeah, okay.
Basically,
I've got to say,
go on.
I was going to say, respect to Will Friedman for that move on Patrick Ledger. He didn't have a dive bomb. He was on the back of him for quite some time. He didn't have a silly, ridiculous dive bomb into a gap that was going to close down. He waited for Patrick to make a mistake and then took advantage of it. Proper racing from Will there. Well done. Yeah,
indeed it was. He's now on the back of Mike Matthews, so Jamal will be frustrated with whatever happened in his pit stop because he's now lost out. Leader into the pits. They won't be able to go another lap. Sorry, this will be the lap they all have to come in. So the top 5 are going to have to pit here. Mike Matthews could be sitting on a net podium at the moment. He was ahead of Sylph, let's not forget, and he jumped both Ledger and Hoffer in the pit stops. He stayed ahead of Friedman and Clouden. But look at this, it's Mike, Friedman, Ledger, Clouden, O'Reilly, Tordock. Big gap then back to Hoffer, who stayed ahead of Matt Wright. So Matt Wright's pit stop wasn't the best one, but we're just going to stick with Mike at the moment. We're waiting for them numbers to go green, and off the limiter is Friedman all over the grass there and kicking up a lot of dirt. That made the Porsche look a little unsettled.
Yes, indeed. This is turning into quite a train here behind Mike Matthews. But as we said, it's about track position and who's going to come out.
Carlos is gone.
Carlos is gone. He should be. He was leading quite comfortably. Didn't mess anything up. The others seeing the whole. I'm on board with Ben in the pits and Dan just exiting the pits. And imagine all those cars have just gone through. Oh, it's soul destroying.
It is soul destroying. Willie's jump. He hasn't jumped the Bentley or Matt Wright. So he's about the same to where he was to Matt Wright. There's Ben Ruck, who is going to lose out, I think, to Hooper. No, he's jumped Hooper, sorry. So the leader is Carlos. He retains that. Mike Matthews, second place still. So maybe then that shows you a little bit. While there's not many cars on the grid, that the undercut then, surely there is the stronger strategy, because all them who's gone long have dropped right down the order.
For God's sake, let's stop talking about him. Yeah, let's leave alone.
Well, let's go to Patrick Ledger, because he's got Jamal Clouden pressurising the rear of him and in towards the Hislop chicane. They come for lap number 9. They're on lap 10 at the moment, and this could be a huge night for SimPlay Racing over that Team Audio Sport team as well, Kelly, because 100 points is the deficit. This is going to be a big deficit close at the moment.
Should we go back to talking about him then, shall we?
Now, there's no biastry here in the commentary box, remember.
Of course not. Absolutely not. We're professionals, you know.
But what a train this is at the moment. And Mike and Freeman have dropped Ledger a little bit here, Kelly.
Yes, they have. Ledger's got Clouden crawling all over the back of him, and Clouden looking racy, looking left, looking right, trying to find a way through Patrick. And we know Patrick has made a couple of mistakes, and Clouden trying to capitalise. But they are the second and third place guys are pulling away from Ledger a little bit now.
Yeah, they are indeed. Just looking at them last lap times again, everybody in the 33s. Tordock was in the 32s. Sorry, no, that's his best lap. Sorry, I'm looking at best, not last. Who has done the best lap? Sylph. Tordock's actually got the best lap of the race, but it would have been invalidated. And that's why Sylph has it. So it doesn't tell us that they're invalidated or not on here, on the timing screen. But yeah, look at Mike 33s, Friedman 33s, 34s for Ledger. So they are definitely a lot quicker than Patrick Ledger. Jamal Clouden 33s, as is O'Reilly, Tordock. So yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. Dan Davis got past Matt Wright.
I guess he must have done. I'm on board with Clouden, who's having a look round the outside into the chicane. It's going to... Oh, they touch. Just a rub as they go into Knickerbrook. And,
Jamal's touched the grass!
put
Oh,
it on
that's
the
it,
grass.
O'Reilly.
Oh, and that's O'Reilly. So that's given a free pass to a few people there. And
I believe it was Tordock and Silf, the only two that got through. There goes the Bentley, the Porsche, and the Nissan. As Jamal tries to straighten up, there goes Hooperton Benz and Clouden down the rear of the field. But it looked like he lost it on the grass there, Kelly.
Touched Patrick on the exit of the chicane, and as he got to Knickerbrook, just got a bit too far on the outside, put a wheel on the grass, and that was that. 2 minutes, with just over 2 minutes to go at the time, he's now dropped right back to the back of the grid.
Yeah, and that's going to be that, really, isn't it? Unless somebody has a big problem, that is probably going to be that for Jamal Clouden. As big track limits there for Silf, who at the minute is losing a couple of points to his teammate Tordock. That'll affect the championship. He'll gain one back, obviously, with the fastest lap, but Tordock needs more than just a couple of points at this stage of the season. Mike's gapped Friedman just a little bit, I'm noticing. And there's going to be what? There's going to be one left after this, so still interesting to keep our eyes on. Let's go to Danny's on the back of Tobias Hoffer.
Yeah, I'm on board with this one at the moment. Hoffer's just that Bentley that's just so loose. He seems to be fighting that Bentley at every single corner, but he's keeping it on track, and there's no room around to get round, especially around the Bentley. It's massive.
It's a big car, and it'll be swallowing these curbs up, that is for sure. And the bonus for the Bentley, I suppose, if you want to say there's a bonus, is it's got a good bit of power in a straight line, so all these little straights will just be helping it pull away from Dan. So all he's got to do really is, if you know who Jason Plato is and know him from the British touring cars.
You know who he is.
Well, we've got foreign fans in the chat. They may not know who Jason Plato is. You know what I mean? But if you know who he is,
do your motorsport history before you
100%. But all you've got to do, park on the apex, get that run out the corner. Yeah. That Bentley's going to outdo the Porsche in a straight line. So Tobias here looking like he could be in the box seat. O'Reilly's got ahead of Tordock, so has Silf further forward. So not sure what's happened there as well. But O'Reilly back up another place. Tordock down behind his championship protagonist. And that could be the curtains on the championship this season. Not 100%. That's not going to be confirmed, I don't think, until at least race 2 of Watkins Glen, maybe even race 1 of Donington Park. But that is not what Tordock would have wanted. So so for O'Reilly, the chance of a couple of places, Dan and Hoffer are a million miles away, but 1 lap to go. Hats off to Carlos. He's been fantastic.
That's the way to run the sprint race. Lead it from the start. Get your head down. Somewhere like Oulton Park, where it's hard to overtake, get your head down, concentrate on your race, and pull away into the distance. And he's neck end of 5 seconds ahead. Mike's got a mirrors full of Will Friedman, who hasn't given this one up yet. Mike's just got to hang on for a couple of more corners. Who else is close? Dan's still looking at the back of the Bentley, with nowhere to get past it at the moment. As you say, Tordock dropped back. Is his championship gone? Well, it's certainly made an uphill struggle now. So, reasonably exciting for Oulton Park, that first race.
Brilliant. And I'll tell you what, Mike Matthews will be loving this. It's his home circuit. But we go to your race leader then. Carlos exit that of Druids. He comes in towards that of the final corner of Lodge. And he rounds it now. Up through D-Elite he comes. And Carlos, for the first time this season, is going to become a race winner. He wins here at Oulton Park. Mike Matthews is going to take a second place. That'll be a fantastic second place for him. He'll be absolutely delighted with that. Will Friedman third. Patrick Ledger fourth. Silf! Is he out of fuel at the end? I think he may have been out to fuel at the end there, but O'Reilly 5th, Tordock 6th, Silf 7th. Hoffer finished ahead of Dan Davis with Matt Wright, Ben Hooper, Ben Ruck and Jamal Clouden bringing up the last of the 13 drivers. But what an epic start and finish to this first race here at Oulton Park. We're going to take a quick 10-minute break and we'll be back with the qualifying and round 20 of the season. Don't go anywhere. gentlemen, to the... I was about to say Project Cars 2, but it's not Project Cars 2. We're on ACC. It's qualifying time here. It hasn't been for a while now. It's just because we've literally just mentioned it. It's qualifying time here. Carlos cannot qualify. He has to serve a qualifying ban. The championship doesn't really change too much, but Tardoc's within 50 points now of Sylph. O'Reilly looks like he's cementing that third place. Seems a battle on for fourth between Hupert, Dan Davis and Ben Rook. Will Friedman jumps ahead of Overtaker. That could be a battle for seventh. Matt Wright just ahead of Clouden with Mike Matthews trying to close down on them. Patrick Ledger, then Michael Harris, Skunky. Carlos moves up to 15th with that race win. Tobias Hoffer 16th. Then it is Viper, Gary Leach, McGowan, Calseth, O'Brien, Williams, Bates, Richie, Collin, Pocket. And then that team's championship, all but done for MSA. Took 533 points up for grabs, but they're 339 ahead, so all but done. Team Audio Sport, though, now a 56 clear of SimPlay Racing, so could be a little fight for that second place. Greasy Bandit still mathematically in it for the time being in fourth. They've dropped a bit further back, SimPlay Racing, obviously one driver, and he finished behind them both in this first one. Then it's the Old School Racers. Quantum Motorsport only 8 points behind them, so Quantum could leapfrog them this afternoon. No Team FBR, no Team SBR. Effect Motorsport and then Red Run Racing in that one there then. We were just on about lap records and Oulton Park, and the lap record was on Project Cars 2, that's why we were saying it. Which was interesting, and Kelly said, do we not have any more updated versions than that from ACC? Last season wasn't quick, and I'm just looking at the season. I don't believe this season was inputted properly because of the SimGrid stuff. No, that season was also slower, so no, we don't have any updated stats. So the pole time, the pole lap record for qualifying here is a 1:31.653 by Andy in the BMW M6 at the time of Project Cars 2. Will we see anybody near that tonight?
I think it's not comparing eggs with eggs, to be honest. Project Cars was a very different game. It'd be interesting to see. I mean, we are 17 degrees air temperature, 23 degrees track. There's no wind. It's beautiful sunshine, and the track is optimum. Surely, if we're going to beat it tonight's the night, isn't it? It's got to be as good as it can be, this track.
You'd imagine so. Here comes O'Reilly to the line. A couple of lap times coming up on the board. We got Patrick Ledger next towards the line. He goes and puts it P6 at the moment. 32.9 from Tardock so far. Yeah. There goes Ben up into P4. What about Dan Davis? He's coming to the line. Goes up to P4 now himself. Mike Matthews next. What can he do? Goes up to P6. Tobias Hoffer in the Bentley, only P10. The 135 of the Nissan of Matt Wright. Before then, the 208 Ledger's already invalidated a lap time. Matt Wright goes into P11. Here comes Will Friedman. Let's see what he can do. Most successful active driver around areas on Orthodubs and Fury. Fury 2 poles, 3 wins. Dan 3 poles, 2 wins as Will Friedman goes up into P3. There then.
Yeah, I think that lap time's going to be optimistic to beat that now. You know, these guys are pretty much on it straight away, aren't they? They're not going to find, what do we need, a second and a bit?
Yeah, pretty much.
To beat the lap record from Project Cars, and I think that might be a little bit out of the realms of possibility tonight. But we will keep an eye on it and see how we get on. But Tardock setting the pace. Clouden with a stunning lap there just to go 2 tenths behind. Remember what we said, track position is key here. You need a good track position to be able to control this race.
Clouden goes provisional pole. Tardock improves but doesn't gets within just a tenth. But it's Clouden who's gone provisional pole position at the moment. That is absolutely key. He took the pole on Tuesday night in the GT4s. He's currently provisional pole at the moment. Here comes Ben Rook, knocks his teammate down as Ben goes up into P3. What can Dan Davis do this time around? Comes to the line, he stays P7. Mike Matthews now, can he get within a second, or just under a second should I say, of Jamal's time? He does, he improves, he stays where he is though. The Bentley improves and goes ahead of Patrick Ledger. What about the Nissan of Matt Wright as Will Friedman is on an invalid lap and the Nissan improves, goes up to P10. So we wait again, but Jamal Clouden took that provisional pole Tuesday night in a 5-minute qualifying shootout in the GT4s. and he's doing the business today.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously comfortable around here. A little disappointed he's not in a BMW, but there you go.
So his go-to car, I've heard.
We're a little bit. He's a big BMW fan, and we were having a bit of a wind-up with him before we came on air this evening. But he likes that McLaren, and he's making it work around here. That's for sure.
Yeah, he's definitely making it work around here at the moment. Then, as they come down towards the final corner, does Hupert once again. Half a second off that pole time at the moment of a 32.8 from Jamal Clouden. Up and over through D-Leap he comes. What is he going to set this time around? Moves up to third place within 2.5 tenths. What about Sylph? He's coming towards the line. He moves up to 6th. Clouden finds more time. So it's a 32.5. Tordok goes provisional pole now.
Oh, it's certainly ebbing and flowing now. Clouden would have thought, pole there, and then Tarduk goes straight at it, goes a little bit quicker. It's a nip and tuck, and you've got to say, Hupert was only 2 tenths off. You have a great lap, and you know there's 2 tenths out there somewhere. You know it, that there's a corner that you could have got better.
100%, and this is the annoying thing for these drivers. Dan and Ben was just on an invalidated lap. Dan's now 1.1 off the pole, and he's going to know that there's more. He's going to know that there's a lot of time out there to find. Will Freeman again on an invalid lap as he comes round. A couple of cars have gone back to the pits. Hupert and Clouden, 2 of them, and it looks like Matt Wright has just returned to the pit lane. Patrick Ledge is on an invalid lap as Will Freeman starts again, but it's Tordok, the next man to finish a lap time here. That's an impressive pole time. We saw a 32.9 last night in Pro-Am for pole position. Well, at the minute, that would have put you P3 on the grid. Right, let's get into this calendar. Impressive. It was impressive by Hibbs.
Sorry, Hibbs, was it? Yeah, wow.
Very impressive.
He's normally in the chat. Where are you tonight?
I'm not seeing him at the moment, Hibbs, so if you are in the chat, let's hear from you. Right, let's get into this calendar. So Donington Park will move to the back end of the calendar, as we know. Now, the calendar was picked. Normally, the admins and the Patreons would pick a track each, and we'd then just randomise the tracks and see where we go. We haven't got lap data on 12 of the tracks, so it made sense to go to them and get the lap data we need. There's no improvement there for Tardok. Dan's the next man on a valid lap time, as Patrick Ledger's had a spin and Ben's invalidated. So, while Dan comes into the final corner, let's just keep our eyes on Dan a second. We'll jump to Mike in a moment. Here comes Dan.
Complaining as he comes around that final corner. The back end just bouncing around.
Finds
third.
Yeah, finds half a second. So he's going to return to the pit lane himself. What about Mike? He moves up to 7th. Car 21 of Tobias Hoffer in the Bentley. No improvement there for him. We'll keep our eyes on Will Freeman. So Zolder will be the starting race of the season.
Right.
We then head to Monza.
Okay. We've got no lap data for Monza.
No, because the SimBot, the lap data bot that come in as Will Freeman comes towards the line now and stays P6. The SimBot for the lap data didn't come in until COTA, but it came in at late COTA, so we didn't get proper data for COTA.
Okay.
So all these tracks, bar Donington, because we'll get Donington's data from last season, we'll get more Donington data from 2 weeks' time. So Zolder, Monza, week 3 is that of Zandvoort. We then head back to COTA for the lap data for week 4. Week 5 will be Barcelona. Week 6, Hungary. Week 7, Misano. Week 8, Paul Ricard. Week 9, Suzuka. Week 10, Laguna Seca. Week 11, Snetterton. Week 12, Valencia. And we will end once again at Donington Park. There is Damien Hibbs. Finally got here. Just caught up on race 1. Unlucky Clouden. Let's go race 2, he says. There we go.
Yeah. Good evening. Welcome along. Better late than never, that's the way. While we're thinking about people in the chat and getting back to your calendar, just want to say hi to Adam from the Kawasaki Centre next door. He said he's going to be watching. I need to tell him all about the 24, but we'll get to that in a minute. And he heard the story about Knickerbrook as well at lunchtime today.
Good.
And we'll get back to that in a minute. So, back to the calendar. Already there's a couple there for me that I'm thinking, I might race those, because there's a few there I like. So
going to be juicy. We're not sure if GT4s will be making a comeback. That'll be discussed. Obviously, we tend to like to mix things up here. We've got that option of Ferrari Challenge, Super Trofeo, BMW M2s, Porsche Cup, maybe a bit of a multi-class thing. GT2s there, but also GT4s as well. So that'll be discussed in the admin meeting to come later on at the end of the season. But some of the votes have come in. Now, I'm not going to say who's voted for what at the moment, but the drivers have voted for 4 things each in terms of what they want. So there will be one morning race, one evening race, and 2 night races.
Really? And the drivers wanted that?
No, that's what we've had this season.
Oh, right, okay.
But the drivers, so the drivers are picking 4 tracks, 2 nights, 1 morning. And what we're going to do is we're going to keep a track of who's picked what. And then the majority will go with. So at the moment, I have heard about Steve Ryder standing down Monkey Boy from Oulton Park, I believe. Oulton Park will be Steve Ryder's last one on ITV. Yeah, stepping away, retiring.
Well, there's an opportunity. Where's my CV? I know it's here somewhere.
It's funny that, because I thought the same thing.
Yeah, I'd front that. No problem with that.
Morning races, Donington has got 2 votes, Laguna Seca 1. Evening races, Donington 1 and Suzuka 1. I've missed an evening race there for some reason. What if I not marked down?
I'm not a fan of evening races, to be honest. I'm not a fan of anything in the dark. I'm not overly fan on our streaming ones in the dark because you can't see, you know. So it's not just about me.
I'm just trying to find out what I missed. There's an evening race, Donny and Suzuka. And Valencia was an evening one.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And then the night races.
I don't mind that.
1 vote for Kota, 2 votes for Laguna Seca, 2 votes for Suzuka, and 1 vote for Paul Ricard.
What, for them to be night races?
For them to be night races, yeah. So at the moment, Donington will be a morning race. The evening race is tied, but it won't be Donington if it stays this way. And then Laguna and Suzuka will be the night races. As it stands at the moment, there's a couple more patrons to get their votes in.
Yeah, I really should vote. How can I vote if I want to, Matt? Tell me.
Become a patron, and if you want to become a patron, £3 a month. Obviously, ignore the graphic on screen because that's slightly changed a little bit. It will reserve your driver number, so if you want a specific driver number, you can reserve that. Bar admins. Admins get first choice on driver number over the patrons as well. Priority access to sign up an event, so any event or sign up that goes out, apart from the Nordschleife 24-hour, any sign up or events that includes the championship seasons, you will get priority sign up to that event before anybody else. A track suggestion towards future seasons. This has now become the which one you want to be the morning, day, night race. Pre-season promo images done by our very own Dan Davis, and an auto share of your social media links to the Discord when you go live or anything. But for £3 a month.
There you go. For £3 a month, what a bargain. And the other option, of course, is become a title sponsor and get none of that. You know, so none of that at all. Not asked on the track, not been given my race numbers, been given away, and all these things, and no input whatsoever. But hey, you know. Well,
the race number has to be that you all race in that season. So if I wasn't to race and somebody picked the 55, they can run that 55.
Okay. Well, I was only joshing.
I know.
I've actually done all right on the number 2 so far.
Yeah, it's not too bad. You're back next week as well, of course.
I am, for Watkins. As Gary would say, I've been sweating it a little bit and doing some practice. So hoping for a good race. I'm probably going to jinx it by even saying anything, but I want to join the greats next week, Matt, like James Hunt and Jean Lacey, who both won on their birthdays. So that would be the ultimate goal.
Is it your birthday on Wednesday?
It is my birthday on Wednesday. Yeah. I turned 28 years old, and looking forward to a trip to reality. Looking forward to a good strong race.
So
but
that means, chat,
sweating it.
Regardless of the size of the grid next week, you all need to be here on Thursday so we can all sing happy birthday to Kelly.
Well, you'd be a day late, but that's okay. But But tune in on Wednesday night.
Tune in on Wednesday night and Tuesday night. Tune in across the board.
Yeah, tune in Wednesday night and see me mess it right up as kind of per usual. So, but looking forward to Watkins next week. It's going to be fun.
Do you know if you got a podium on your birthday and a certain Kieran Argent didn't? Monkey Boy knows where I'm probably going with this in the chat. That'd just be funny because Monkey Boy's had a podium this year, and if you got a podium. Kieran hasn't had a podium. That's all I'm saying.
I'll be certainly trying my best. That's for certain, sure. And be giving it maximum and see how we get on. I'm fastest. I'm not going to give away my time, but my very fastest lap is only within 3/4 of a second of Dan's very fastest lap.
Oh.
Yeah.
Dan Porsche or Dan Lexus?
Well, no, just Dan, right? Let's just leave it like that.
Well, no, because it's two different levels here.
No, listen. You know, normally that would be hugely impressive, and I'm hoping some of my competitors on Pro-Am are going, ooh, 3/4 a second off Dan's pace. Kelly's going to be quick, but Dan's only done about 3 laps around there, so do you know what I mean? He hasn't done a lot of laps. Yeah, it doesn't really count, so don't get too excited.
Well, Dan and O'Reilly bailed on their final runs, and Sylph has just pipped it into 4th place, so Dan failed to improve. O'Reilly will stay 3rd, just waiting for Patrick Ledger to come around, but at the moment it is that of Tardok who's going to take pole position. Now that's an extra point in this championship. That'll take it down to 49 points. Jamal P2, that's very impressive from the young man there. Say the young man, he's exactly the same age as me, so...
Well, you're young men.
Nah, just debatable.
Well,
Ledger bails, so that's qualifying done.
Yeah, put another 20 years on Matt, then start worrying about being old.
Yeah, fair one. You said you're only 28 yourself.
I'm just saying, if you were 50 something, you'd feel old.
Yeah, probably would, mate.
Yeah. Trust me on this.
Right, so qualifying's done. So it is Tardok from Clouden from O'Reilly with Sylph, Dan Davis, Hoopert then running P6. Mike Matthews 7th, not bad from him. Ben Rook P8, then Will Friedman, Patrick Ledger, Matt Wright, Tobias Hoffer, and Carlos at the back after his qualifying ban there. Kelly, it's going to be a tough race to 1 hour. I don't think we're going to have it all as close as we did in that first 20-minute sprint race we've just had, but they was all pretty close, you know, where it could be like that for the majority until the pit stops.
There may be some very frustrated drivers. There may be some frustrated drivers that try something a little bit unorthodox. Maybe not. Have you just read Kieran's comment? I giggled at that one as well. Good evening, Kieran. Hope you're well. Look forward to being on track with you next week, as usual. Although last time we were on track together, we were nowhere near each other.
Just want to point out, SimPlay Racing is a stable. I've had a podium this season. O'Reilly's had podiums this season.
Stable.
Dan has had a podium this season. Ben's had podium this season. Monkey's had a podium. Mike's now had a podium. So Kieran, only one without a podium. Only one without a podium in the stable. Come on.
Well, wouldn't that be lovely? Me and Kieran fighting for a race win next week. That would be like old times.
Like Daytona, all over again.
Like Daytona. Yeah, I'm still in therapy about it. It would be a great.
While we're on air and he's listening, let me give you a few key points here. If he says got to run, give him a wide berth into the corner because it means he's full on sending it on you.
Matt, the chase at Bathurst.
But he warned Monkey Boy the other week that he got to run and lunged down the inside and sent it. So make sure if he says got to run, make sure you're aware of he's got to run. If he doesn't say anything and there's just this red triangle appear on your screen, bail, because he hit Monkey Boy around at Nürburgring as well. Just a few tips. Where do I go for bullying people in the workplace? We're not in the workplace. I'm in the comms box. You're sat at your home watching on the stream. So
peer pressure, Kieran. Suck it up. You'll be all right.
It's constructive criticism is what it is, Kieran. You'll be fine.
Or banter, we don't know which, but along those lines.
Either way, Ben Rook missed the start.
Did he? Oh, what?
Sat in the pit lane.
Oh, God, sack.
Sack? Well, we're throwing the sack. Kieran, you're not getting sacked at least. This is being thrown around.
Yeah, I mean, I may have just spoken out of my mouth there because we are already in negotiations for next season. We're in contract talks at the moment, and there's a lot of skittles on the table. Well, you know, being the young and up and coming driver that he is, there's an awful lot of skittles I'm going to have to pay him to keep him in the team.
Well, a little birdie told me, Kelly. Now, the rumours are there's a possible Pro-Am Audio Sport team coming. Now, this is the rumour.
It was rumour? What, you mean the huge thread on Discord being a rumour?
Well, and then the drive. I popped some. Well, I'd love to be in Pro-Am, to be honest with you, mate. But my pace at the moment, I feel like I probably would fit in there quite well. The rumour or the driver lineup I saw, I think it was John Gooday who put this one, was DJ Phil and Dean Wasocki. How do you feel about that for a driver lineup in Pro-Am?
Well, absolutely. I think John should worry about his own teams.
Take that one as a stern no, Joe. John.
Yeah. No disrespect, John. It's only banter. See you on track.
Bit of your DJ Phil and Dean, massive disrespect apparently.
Well, yeah, possibly, yeah. And good evening to Phil if you're listening. Phil is already a team.
Was an audio sport, yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely. And once an audio sport driver, always an audio sport driver.
Did you a bit of a favour, didn't you, Imola, a few weeks back?
He did. I was going to, yeah. Managed to swipe out someone who was behind me as we lapped past them. Yeah, well done, Phil. Thank you very much for that. Mate, when you've signed a contract, you're in it for life. It's like signing with the devil. It's like selling your soul, being on audio sport. And I believe you'll be joining that. You'll be joining that clan, if only briefly, for the 24-hour of Nordschleife. We're about to get this race started, so we'll come back to the 24-hour and we'll chat about that a bit later on when we get a little bit more time. But something to chat about. A very important thing to chat about. Yeah. I'm getting very excited. We've got some lap times on the board, haven't we, Matt?
Oh, we have. That's the most exciting news of time.
It is.
Apart from Honda coming fourth from last in British GT and beating an Aston Martin, a McLaren and a Porsche, right? And it didn't cut the grass the Lamborghini did. Bar that exciting news, me and Kelly's got a lap time on the board at the Nordschleife, so hold your hats, folks. It's green and go, though, here for the start of the second race. It's a good start. Dan Davis looking to thread the needle between two Mustangs and an NSX as he goes up the inside of Hoopert through turn one. Now on the back of O'Reilly, has to get out of that one off the throttle, though, because he's not really got anywhere to go. O'Reilly on that outside line. Dan stands a nose up at Cascades and nearly taps the rear of O'Reilly round. O'Reilly understeers wide. Dan's now got side by side. Pretty ordinary out front from the top three, but this between Dan and O'Reilly turning into a great scrap already. Dan Bales, though, coming through the island bend, and that is a great start for Dan Davis ahead of Hoopert and already putting pressure on O'Reilly already from the start. But that, Kelly, was very, very close to Dan tapping that Honda round.
Absolutely. I got on board with Friedman just at the moment where Ledger went up the inside of him. I don't know if he was ahead of him before, but he certainly put a run on him down towards Cascades and is in front of Will Friedman at the moment. So lots to do. A reasonably clean start. They all seem to be pointing in the right direction. And Ben with an awful lot to do from the pit lane. He's catching to the back of the group. I don't think it will take him long because track position. His pace should bring him back to the back of the Crocodile, but I think that's where he might top out for a while.
Yeah, I think you're right there. Tordok led them from Clouden, from that of Silf, and that already is a 10-point switch in Tordok's favour. That'll take it down to 39 points if it stays like this, depending on fastest lap, as Dan's defending now from Hoopert at the final corner, and Dan manages to hang on here. The bonus for Dan in this Porsche tonight, Kelly, and this is one of the key things I forgot to mention with the Bentley in race one, is the straights aren't massively long here. Yeah. So for him and O'Reilly and two of the slowest cars on the grid at the moment, they've not got a lot of straight to work with. It's not like being at where was we last week? Apologies. We was at the Nürburgring. It's not like having that back section where you can where they can come through. Sorry, the Red Bull Ring, where they've got a lot of straights there on the Nürburgring. Big long straights where that power can come through. The Honda and the Porsche here should be okay in a straight line.
The Porsche's got good traction out of the corners, which is ideal for this track. So. Yeah, if Dan can keep it on the black stuff, he should be able to hold off anybody behind him, to be fair. Good evening to Lexi, just joined the chat. Where have you been all night? And I'm under the impression that Lexi is running on her own for the 24-hour, or planning.
Believe so. Yeah.
I was hoping to get all the comms guys in at one time on the 24-hour and have a bit of banter with all the commentators on SimPlay, because we don't all come together in the comm box. But I think that's going to be tricky if Lexi's going to race the whole 24. And good luck to her. Because what's just happened to my picture?
Not sure what's happened to your picture, but good luck to everybody who's driving on their own. Patrick Ledger, P7 at the moment from Will Friedman. Jamal Clouden looks like he's caught onto the back of Tordok, set the fastest lap. He's got Silf with him as well at the moment. We was watching this. Kelly has left, so that's a network issue for Kelly there, so hopefully he'll get back into the comms box. So it's just myself and you guys in the chat at this moment in time. But Clouden coming under pressure from Silf a little bit. The back half of that second lap, we're on to lap 3. It's Tordok from Clouden, Silf with fastest lap. Then O'Reilly, Dan Davis under pressure from Hooper, Ledger under pressure from Friedman. They resume their scrap from race 1. Then it's Mike Matthews, Tobias Hoffer, Matt Wright, Marcus Carlos and then Ben Rook down the bottom of the pack, 4.1 off the back, but he can try and close that gap if needs be. Hooper's still close to the rear of Dan close to the rear of that of O'Reilly still within a second then of that of Sylph, who set the fastest lap, and Ledger was a little wide on the hairpin there, but manages to keep it all together as they exit in towards the Britain chicane for the third time of asking, and it is Tardok, Clouden, then that of Sylph at the moment, and then it's Dan Davis. If we look back from Dan on the rear wing of that Porsche, Hooper has a little glance up the inside, nothing more than that. Coming through his lops they come now in towards Knickerbrook, and then up Clay Hill they start to climb, and you just see the traction of that Porsche being able to pull Dan out of it on the rear wing of Patrick Ledger. Then you see there is Will Friedman with Mike Matthews just lurking in that background, just getting ever so closer at the moment. Then there's Hoffer and Matt Wright, as well as Carlos, who's dropped a little further back, but Patrick Ledger doing wonderful things at this moment in time in this race. As Dan Davis, O'Reilly, he's lost a couple of tenths to Sylph. That's now just over a second gap back to that of Sylph, and it's already turning into a pretty good race here in this second race. A few groups just starting to form of all these different cars. Friedman looks to have a run on Ledger in the background, side by side as Carlos on the grass in towards Cascade they come. Friedman very fortunate to go around the outside, now tucks back under as Ledger went deep, and he gets the up and under. Will Friedman will have the inside line into the island bend, and Ledger pulls in behind. Friedman's already got it done. The pressure from Will Friedman there forced Patrick Ledger into a mistake, and that is brilliant driving from the Porsche driver. He can now head after Hoopert, who's still hunting down the back of Dan. Mike Matthews might now be interested in Ledger. He's got Hoffer and Wright with him. Carlos just having a few problems. Race 1 winner was Carlos. Ben Rook getting close to him, but Clouden now out of that 1 second mark as Hooper's looking to the outside of Dan Davis. They're alongside, coming down in towards his lap. Is he going to try around the outside? He is. They're side by side on the grass a little bit. Dan gives him room. Hooper gives him room. Dan's still there. Hoopert and Dan out to Knickerbrook side by side. Hooper bouncing over the curb, and I think the Mustang, yes, gets the move done over Dan Davis, bouncing off the curb. That's a lovely bit of racing between the Irishman and the Cornishman. Great stuff there from Hoopert as he really made that stick. He had to make it work around the outside of that of the Hislop chicane, and Dan Davis was a sitting duck up Clay Hill, but a great move there from the Ford Mustang. From one Mustang to another, it is that of Sylph putting pressure on Cloud. Now Dan's not done actually in the background, having a look on that of Hoopert in towards turn 1, bails out of that one, not alongside enough. Will Friedman's going to be on the back of Dan Davis now. Ben Hoopert, Kelly, you missed that one, but it was a cracking move. Dan's having a look into Cascades, but not misses out there just a little bit. This is a spicy race at the moment.
Absolutely, and that sounds like I've just missed about 5 minutes of good racing. I got kicked out for some reason. My PlayStation decided to disconnect on all the levels, but I'm back and trying to get myself back in the party at the moment. So
yeah, no problem.
Yeah, but there's still plenty of action going on here at Oulton Park.
Plenty of action at the moment. Will Friedman's got past Ledger. He's now onto the back of Dan Davis. Mike Matthews now on the back of Patrick Ledger in the background. Hooper a little squirrely through there. Dan didn't get the best of exits through the Britain chicane. Now Friedman fancies a run down the outside of Dan. Up over Hilltop towards the Hislop chicane. Is Friedman going to try around the outside like Hooper did? No, he's not. Bails out of that one. Doesn't fancy a piece of it. And now that's brought Ledger and Matthews into play. And Dan Davis here just looks like he's struggling a little bit, and he's got to try and get back up to his usual way. I know Dan had changed the setup a little bit before the race. Car was understeering a bit, so I'm wondering if he's either reverted back and just got a bit of understeer, or if he's just settling with this setup that he altered just before. But Tardok starting to check out front from Clouden. Sylph putting pressure on him, and there's still the fight for that P5 spot. Hooper, Dan, Friedman, Ledger. Mike Matthews has made a mistake somewhere. He's coming under pressure from the Bentley of Tobias Hoffer, who pulls to the outside line as they come down in towards Lodge for the towards Old Hall for the 6th time. They both run very wide, and that'll probably ping up a track limits warning. And Ben within a second and a half now of Carlos back on the rear.
Oh, absolutely, and breathe a little bit. Where are we? We're only 9 minutes into this race, then an hour to go. As you say, Tardot's checked out a little bit, 2 seconds clear now of Clouden. Then the biggest gap then probably O'Reilly to Hooper. There's a little gap forming there as well. So we've got a couple of groups coming together. I'm on board with Hoffer in that big Bentley, who's not a million miles away from the back of Mike Matthews. As we continue.
Yeah, and then you've got Matt Wright on the back of him as well, so it's an interesting one to see that the Bentley and the Nissan fighting strong. They've not looked out of place here today, as Friedman's having a look up the inside of Dan Davis. Now he backs out of that one again in towards the Hislop chicane. Dan's not getting the run out of Britain's I think he's wanting, because that seems to be where he's weak at the moment, through Britain's. Yeah. Oh, it's Ledger, bounces over the curb, he's off, he's round. Does he keep it out the wall? He does, but around he went, he bounced. There's a grate about 3/4 of the way on the exit curb of the Knickerbrook, the exit of Knickerbrook, and Patrick Ledger finds that and bounces all over the place, and off he goes.
Easy spot to lose it. Round Knickerbrook is always a tricky little corner. You tend to oversteer quite a lot on the exit. Maybe just got on the power a little too hot, sent the back end round. But that's put him now at the back with lots to do.
Indeed it has, as Matt Wright looks to be making a move up the inside of the Bentley. Noah's just having a look there. Carlos cannot get through this traffic. Ben's now gaining on the back of them, and that's another place for Ben. I suppose that's why, starting from the pit lane, he's just starting to make that ground up on this train of cars now. Sylph still within half a second of Jamal Clouden, and Friedman right there with Dan. But it is that Matt Wright, Carlos, Tobias Hoffer fight at the moment that is the one to keep our eyes on so far. It is a brilliant scrap, and one that we are thoroughly enjoying here. Three great big cars.
Will Friedman got a little bit on the grass on the exit of the hairpin and managed to collect it all up, but the back end went a little bit squirrely while he was trying to get it back moving forward. He's probably one of the closest fights on track at the moment. Sylph is getting close to the back of Clouden within half a second, but he's not exactly pressuring him too much. And Carlos on the back of Matt Wright, on the back of Hoffer. This is the battles of the tanks at the back here, isn't it?
Massively so.
It is the big cars, yeah.
The Bentley, part of the VW group, as much as people want to call it British. The Nissan of Japan, third best Japanese car on the grid. Although no, actually there's no Lexus, so technically second best Japanese car on the grid. And then the Ford Mustang, the American power of the Ford. Now, this is an interesting little scrap, because I tell you what, we saw how much we've seen how hard, Kelly, in the 10 minutes or so here, the 20-minute sprint, and last night, how hard it is to pass these bigger cars. Now these are racing each other, so it kind of makes that incredibly harder. Dan's Porsche is nice and slim and slender compared to these tanks at the back. Yeah. But now imagine these two going side by side.
Yeah, well, I find it difficult round here, that's for sure. They're big motor cars, that's for certain sure. It's like the heavy infantries at the back, like, you know, and ploughing their way through. And this race is you know, this type of track is all about pressure, giving pressure, trying to make your opponent make a mistake in front of you, but sucking up that pressure of watching them in your mirror all the time. You know, seeing where they're going to go, and hopefully that they don't miss their braking spot and crash into the back of you, of course, you know.
Yeah, that's going to be a big, interesting one to keep our eyes on throughout this night. Jamal still 6 tenths clear of that. Matt Wright's lost out a little bit to Tobias Hoffer. He's got Carlos breathing down his neck, and Ben's not a million miles away here. Patrick Ledger's only 10 seconds behind, so he's still in this race, barring a mistake to anybody. He's still got a chance here of gaining on these packs, because when you're in that traffic, you are a lot slower. Just because you're having to brake earlier, wait to get that power down out the corner. Ben's having a look on Carlos, but it is just a look. He was too far back at the moment. And this is the big fight at the minute back here between these 3 or 4 cars.
Yes, indeed. And they're very close. I was just thinking that Carlos was behind Ben, but I can't remember if he was or not.
No, he wasn't. Ben was in the pits, wasn't he?
Okay, adventure before dementia and all that. So my mistake. But Ben close, moving up to the back of these, and again, closest fight is Friedman. Has a look at Dan down through towards the hairpin. He'd be lucky to go around the outside of there. flat scat, but has a look into the hairpin. Dan takes his line as normal, gets powered down. Will Freeman in the same car, so they're evenly matched on cars, no real advantage there. Dan bouncing all over the curbs, running the curbs as much as he possibly can, and you need to, you need to, Randy. You need to have a car that's good on the curbs, or you're going to be absolutely nowhere.
Yeah, you are indeed. And just looking at Mike Matthews in the background there, it looked like that Bentley starting to pull away from, as we were watching the Friedman Dan Davis fight, you just saw Mike Matthews with a Bentley closing in on him and pulling away from Matt Wright. So Tobias Hoffer starting to put pressure on Mike Matthews. Friedman applying pressure to Dan, and like Kelly said, it's about not just giving but taking pressure around this Oulton Park circuit. That looked a little bit too far off track for Dan Davis. That may have pinged up a track limit warning. They are so on the edge on turn 1 and Outer Druids as they come up through Deer Leap in towards Old Hall once again. Freeman doesn't have the run, so Dan doesn't have to go defensive, because you need a run at this circuit. If you don't have a run, you're not really going to get this move done.
No, and being the chased car, you have to kind of keep that in your head, that, and don't start defending for the sake of defending. Have faith that you've got your line, and then, they're going to need a lot to overtake you. So, you've just got to keep that faith. That way you don't make mistakes.
Carlos having a look on Matt Wright. They've got Ben right behind them as well, and tucks back in through the island bend, and now into the Shell Oils hairpin they come. He's going to switch back up to Will Freeman, who's pretty much pushing Dan in towards the braking zone of Britain's here, and Dan taking the curbs. Dan seems to be a lot more aggressive on the curbs than Will Freeman does.
Yeah, and he seems to be fighting the back end, although I've been watching from Friedman, watching into the back of Dan. I was hoping that Mike Matthews would pull up behind him so I could watch him there, because that would be a better vantage point. But Dan got very wide out of the hairpin. I don't know if it's his normal line or whatever, which gave Will a look down the inside, but not enough. Do you know what I mean? It just going wide isn't enough of a door.
O'Reilly's got Hoopert gaining on the back of him. Apologies, I thought Hoopert was ahead, but he's not. So O'Reilly's got Hoopert gaining on the back of him. Dan and Friedman in the Porsches, then coming down towards Lodge Corner. We've got Mike Matthews with Hoffer within a second, and then back to that trio of cars back there of Matt Wright, Carlos, and Ben Ruck. Ben just dropping off the rear, has a bit of a moment there through Lodge on the exit, so that's going to compromise him for the rest of this lap. In towards Old Hall they come again. This fight between Dan Davis and that of Will Freeman. Mike Matthews on the grass, bouncing along in the background, rejoins safely there. Then into Cascades come the two Porsches, the number 1 and the number 208. You imagine, or it is probably going to happen, that the 16 is going to be back on the car next season. Obviously, without winning the championship, Dan cannot run the number 1. So we'll be back to the number 16, and Freeman looking racy with Dan Davis here. But again, we said testament to him in race 1, where he was so patient behind Ledger and others in the race. He's doing the same here. That pressure is firmly all on Dan at the moment. Freeman's just sat there waiting.
Yeah, not making any stupid lunges, not basically doing anything stupid. He's just being patient, like you should in real racing. Do you know what I mean? How you should do it. A lunge up the inside would just be futile and would probably end up with both of them going off on a track this narrow. So Will Freeman, testimony to his driving this evening, and if he manages to get Dan, with Dan making a mistake, that'll be another mature proper drive. So let's see how that pans out. But Will having a look down into the last corner, but not putting a stupid move in, just trying to distract Dan's attention, make him look in the mirrors a bit,
showing the nose without actually making it putting it there in it, like you say, in a silly place. Through turn 1 they come. Just going to turn forward a little bit. So Riley's got that of Hoopert gaining on him. Hoopert has changed livery. He's gone to the blue.
Friedman's down the inside. Sorry, Matt. Friedman's down the inside into Cascades, and Dan gets pushed to the outside. They're side by side now as they come down what's the most of a straight and towards the hairpin. I think Dan's going to have to... No, he's not going to yield that one at all. Freeman had to yield before they got to the hairpin. So Freeman had a look. He had a go, but Dan was just able to get the power down.
I think the problem with the run there, Kelly, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when you come to that little island right-hand bend, that little left-hand kink, it is a slight lift. So the driver on the inside is going to have more of a lift to get it turned in and get it pointed, whereas Dan from the outside is going to be better as Hooper's side by side with O'Reilly, doing to O'Reilly what he did to Dan Davis, and he makes it stick again around the outside at the Hislop chicane, up the inside for the next bit, and Hooper there, twice he's done that move, twice it's come off, and they are the overtakes of the day. That is absolutely sublime from the Irishman.
Yeah, absolutely. I missed that one, but I'm trying to look at the stream now to see if I can see it happen. But good move by the sounds of it. That's for sure. And I'm just watching it on the stream because unless you're aware, those of you watching at home, we're about 30 seconds behind what we say to what you see. So we get the opportunity to watch the stream every now and then. And good move there from Hooper.
Back to Dan Davis and Freeman, though. Freeman had a little wiggle on the exit of turn one, just noticing behind Mike. That Bentley's fell off of him and into the path again of the three sleeping giants, while Ben Rook is having a look behind them all. And I tell you what, that must be worth a look on Ben Rook's view at the moment. Let's go on board with Ben Rook. Here he is. And you can't see a lot past that Mustang. Then the Mustang wants to try and go side by side with a Nissan, and you can't see or go anywhere. So you are really, if you're Ben, you are sat in
what are you going to do?
Yeah. Oh, opening here. Look at this on board, Ben. Carlos up the inside of Matt Wright. A bit of argy-bargy rights off.
Yeah, Carlos, a bit pushy there. It was, I don't know. They were side by side. They touched just slightly, and that sent Matt Wright exit left, didn't it?
Yeah, it looked like Matt Wright went a little deep at the hairpin corner, which opened the door for Carlos. And a little bit of hip and shoulder. There's a fine line, isn't there, between hard racing and just pushing somebody off the circuit. I'm at the moment, obviously tickets can go in for stewarding to be looked at. I'm happy to eat my own words in the steward room. I'm saying that's down to more hard racing than it is Carlos giving in the old shove off the track.
I think it's borderline, not with any disrespect to Carlos. From what we just seen just then, I think it's right on the edge. You don't know which is which, to be fair. I certainly wouldn't want to be the steward on that one, to be fair.
No. Well, that gives Ben Rook yet another position, and he's still half a second off the back of Carlos at the moment. He's with Carlos within 7/10 of Hoffa. Mike now pretty much in no man's land. Can't get close to Dan and Friedman while Dan and Friedman are scrapping here, can Mike?
No, he can't. And I don't know if he's just in that kind of zone at the moment, and maybe his pace will come back to him later in the race with a fresh set of tyres, or just you know what it's like. Sometimes your pace just drops off, and sometimes it comes back again. But you're certainly right. He's not making any roads on the two Porsches. In fact, he's just dropping off just a little bit. The only quite a couple of big gaps starting to grow now. Tardok out in front, nice and comfortable, 4 seconds clear of Clouder. The next big gap then is kind of O'Reilly to Dan. These two Porsches battling is letting O'Reilly just get away bit by bit as Ben gets a little bit out of shape. Just before Knickerbrook, whatever the corner is before Knickerbrook, and Hislops, got a little bit out of shape, and Hislops, no harm done as he follows these two big cars. Hoffa still keeping Carlos honest, and we'll see how this one progresses. We're only 3 minutes away from the pit window opening.
Oh, Dan a little wide out to Lodge corner over the curb. He had a bit of a wiggle. He's had to defend the inside line pretty much straight away up through Deerleap. Will Freeman then to the outside at Old Hall corner. And Dan's Porsche then just over the curb and unsettled a little bit. Gave Freeman a sniff of an opportunity, but Dan managed to defend that inside line. Now into Cascades. They come Freeman looking at the gap up the inside of Dan at Cascades, and it wasn't there. And they managed to come away from this. I tell you what, I know Dan very, very well, as yourself. He will be...
I know him quite well.
As much as he's under pressure right now, he will be relishing this battle.
He does like a scrap, does Dan, that's for certain sure. He likes to... we're all racers and results count, but Dan does genuinely like to have a scrap, and if he loses out from a good race, he's usually not too bad. O'Reilly's had a problem because these two have just caught up on the back of O'Reilly. I think he went wide out of the chicane and onto the grass.
Saw the dirt being kicked up, Kelly.
Yeah. And this has brought the Porsche straight back onto him at, as Dan gets a little bit sideways. Riley gets sideways through Knickerbrook on the exit. Both of them were sliding all over the place. Will Friedman just taking his foot off the gas, I reckon, because it could be something happening in front in just a few moments. O'Reilly seems to be struggling.
Yeah, that Honda's not looked great all the time, has it? I think it looked its best last week, we said, about O'Reilly in the Honda. And again here, it's just gone back to that characteristics of, in that race, just having its little moments of twitchiness on the rear. And I've heard from drivers that the Honda's similar to the Porsche drive in terms of its weaknesses on that rear end. When it starts to go light, it is a little horrible. So that's an interesting one to keep our eyes on. O'Reilly looked a little deep through the entry of turn one. That'll probably ping up a track limit warning for Kieran O'Reilly there. But you see Mike Matthews watching on in the background. He has gained on these two a little bit, couple of tenths here and there, so he has brought the gap down. Now for SimPlay Racing, they're going to want to score big again over Audio Sport. They pulled 44 points back in that Constructors' Championship to finish second. They've obviously won the Constructors 3 seasons in a row. O'Reilly, big step, he's in the wall, he's in the wall. And now Will Freeman's going to have a look on the inside of Dan. And that was all the Honda having a wiggle at Island Bend. And O'Reilly, that is going to be a broken car, and he returns to the pit lane.
I said about that one earlier, it's easy to run wide, and when you run wide and get on that grass, you're almost straight to the scene of the accident. You're a passenger from there on in, and for whatever reason O'Reilly was struggling. He went out on that grass, and that was adios Honda.
So O'Reilly then into the pits. That'll be a 2-minute wait time plus any damages that he's got to repair. So that is going to be a huge one there for Kieran O'Reilly. And it just had that little mid-corner snap. We said it didn't look comfortable, Kelly, didn't we? Through the mid-parts of corners. But Mike Matthews now, within a second and a half, he's pulled another 3 tenths over these two in front. So just maybe that Ferrari starting to come to him. Pit window opens. Oh, what a shame for O'Reilly as well. He couldn't get it round to the pits as the pit window opens. That's a shame.
Yeah, absolutely. So, insult to injury as Friedman dives straight into the pits straight away. He's first man in, and I just wondered if Matt that Mike was actually benefiting from what's going on in front. More than picked up his pace, but it's going to be irrelevant now because we'll get into the pit stops. Ben's also in as well,
and that's it. But I did notice that Ben pitted ahead of Carlos. So, and Carlos has got front end damage. So Carlos has had a moment somewhere as well. So we get to see what Dan can do now. He's already opened that gap up to Mike Matthews because he's obviously not watching that rear view mirror as much. And that's obviously where drivers are going to lose time here, being under that pressure for so long. But hey, testament to Will Freeman. That was a great scrap with Dan Davis. Long may that continue. After this pit window, 34 minutes gone. The pit window is open for 9 more minutes. Sylth is P3, but Tardok already in that first stint of the race. You kind of have 3 stints, don't you? You have that first stint where it's opening sort of 25 minutes before the pit window opens. You have that middle 10 minutes where it's all a bit of a lull as the pit window continues. Then you have the final 25 minutes where everything comes back together and it's a fight to the end.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't disagree with that at all. But Tardok comfortable with a 5-second gap at the moment. We'll see who chooses to do what. Freeman's out and back on the track. Of course, he's in 11th position, but he is the front of the pitted guys. So we'll see what he can do. I'm sure he would have changed tyres. Track temperature 25 degrees and track optimum. I would have said he would change tyres. It would be certainly a track like this with so many corners and traction zones. I don't think it'd be brave to go, would it not?
I'd change tyres. Bouncing around, sliding around, you're just going to possibly take the top layer of surface off the tyre. I'd be changing. It's one of the shortest pit lanes on the calendar. 49 seconds in, out with a tyre change pit stop. That's provided you hit your marks bang on. Drive through here will only cost you 14 seconds. So not too bad here. O'Reilly's back out on the tracks. That's how much time he's lost. Dan is in the pit lane, yet to go green. Will Freeman exits Lodge Corner now. Dan just goes green, so we'll see when Dan's off the pit limiter. Wait for that P to remove. Here comes Freeman into turn 1. You hear that Dan's got away. There's Dan. There's Freeman. This could be close. No, it's not. It's as we were. And Dan made sure to literally chop across the track and say, you are not coming past. He had every right to do so. He was well in front.
didn't say it was quite a Duffin job, but he wasn't far off it, as he made his position clear that he was going to sit in front of that position. Friedman weaving down the straight, not in an attacking way, more in a tyre warming kind of way.
Yeah, it looked like it.
Yeah, I wonder if he's still not happy on his tyres. Probably a little bit disappointed he couldn't quite make the difference to get past Dan.
Does that answer the question of undercut, overcut? Because undercut has kept him exactly where they was. Overcut, Dan went longer than Friedman. Friedman tried to undercut Dan. They're exactly where they were. So there we go. Evening to Paul Williams in the chat. FBR Wickham in the chat. Self pits from P3. He's trying something over Clouden. Maybe the undercut with a couple of laps of Clouden going longer will work. That's what happened in race 1. The other guys went so much longer that they lost out more. But Dan and Friedman, as we were, and we can watch this battle. This is the only fight on the track at the moment. 31 minutes left. O'Reilly still in that pit lane. That could be a retirement here in this race. We'll have to wait and see what will happen.
Doesn't matter, front or middle or back. It always seems to be Dan in the middle of a scrap, doesn't it?
Recent weeks, I'd say so. I'd say him or O'Reilly have always seemed to be the ones that were picking up in a scrap of some nature or another. Will Friedman actually as well, to be fair, he's always seemed to be in a good scrap. Them three, I think, are the three that are having a bit of a fight. Dan a little deep at Cascades there, sort of more in the middle of the road than towards the inside that he'd have liked, but Friedman too far back to capitalise. That's put him on the rear again. And I tell you what, this has been about 2 laps of racing. This has been intense for the pair of them to just be on this kind of Friedman to give the pressure and Dan to take the pressure.
Yeah, Dan using a bit of the middle of the road KLF type position to defend there. Make your car as wide as possible and make it unovertakeable on the apexes.
Halfway through the race from race control there then, as O'Reilly now out of the pit lane. And that's 4 laps down. He'll obviously not be classified as retiring in this one.
Glad to see that he's rejoined that.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about, points at the end of the day. And when you're in that constructors fight with another team, you want them points. Patrick Ledger in the pits. These two should comfortably get ahead of Patrick. He'll be in that fight with Ben Rook for honours out the pit lane. He's gone a little longer than Ben. Ben undercut, pitted at the same time as Friedman. He's a long way back, is Ben, nearly coming under a lap from Tordok. But these two, nose to tail, and have been for majority of this race now. I'd say a good half an hour of this race. Just under half an hour, they've been nose to tail.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure to give and a lot of pressure to take. You know, it's equally as bad for both of these. Will always looking for that position, thinking where he can get a run on Dan as he tries it round the outside of Cascades. He knows it can happen there.
But has he looked for the up and under? No, he hasn't.
No, it wasn't going to happen. Not from that position. But why not distract Dan if you've got the pace to be always there? Why not distract him? Try and put him off. Try and get in his head.
Dan got very close there as Kieran O'Reilly has left the lobby, so that will be a retirement for Kieran O'Reilly. Dan got very close to the edge of the grass there, Kelly, and nearly possibly putting it off onto the grass there. So Kieran O'Reilly, that is a retirement for him, sadly. That'll
disappointing.
No points for the SimPlay Racing driver in this one, so maybe fight back on for third place.
There is a sunny side then, isn't there? There is a silver lining to that. Being the unbiased commentator that I am. But I'm disappointed. We don't like retirements.
No.
It's all for the show.
It is all for the show, as here comes Freeman and Dan again. Matt Wright, Jamal Clouden, Tobias Hoffer into the pit lane. They come then this time around. Jamal Clouden is done. Unexpecting of Dan and Freeman to be any closer. I think while they're fighting like this, they're going to lose more time to Jamal. Let's just go to Jamal a second, because Sylph is coming through turn 1. There he is. Jamal keeps a healthy gap over Sylph, and nothing happens there. Back to the Dan Davis, Will Freeman fight. And if you're wondering why we're just watching Dan and Freeman, it is the only fight on track. Everybody's making stops. You can see the little track map. They're all bitted and bobbed across the circuit. Freeman on the inside of Dan. Was that Dan who was a little deep that Freeman then thought of trying to stick the nose there? They've done so well not to hit each other.
Yeah, I don't see that there's any harm done unless any damage was sustained, but it was a really close to an accident, that one, really close, and I couldn't tell if it was Dan deep on the brakes or you know, Will trying to get down the inside. I couldn't really tell, but it was certainly close.
The problem we've got here, Kelly, as well, we don't know if either of these changed tyres or didn't change tyres, because they stayed as they was. Nobody gained or lost that 5-second margin, so it's tough to tell what has happened here. The 14 of Ben Ruck has got ahead of Tobias Hoffer and Matt Wright and Patrick Ledger. That's a little quartet who's just come through the Britain chicane at the moment. We'll keep our eyes on that scrap. We'll also keep our eyes on Sylph and Cloud, and that's just over a second at the moment. But this, the main fight on track, Mike Matthews and Carlos now in the pits. This will be interesting. Mike running in clear air. How much has he gained? He was 1.8 off the back of these two before Friedman pitted. So let's see what Mike Matthews may have caught or lost while these two have been having their little scraps. He's not yet away from the pits, and I think he's possibly lost a little more. Oh, he's away now.
Maybe. The Porsches have come over the line and now into turn one.
Yeah, I think Mike's lost more. He's only just come off the limiter. Yeah. There he is, look. That looks a bit bigger than 1.5 seconds as it was before. But, you know, if these two keep fighting the way they have been, he's there for possibly 2 places.
Yeah, we'll see when the timings... I don't think there's a lot in it, to be honest, when the timings sort themselves out.
Oh, no, 1.8, fair enough.
Yeah, it looks about the same to me. So, no real gains made there from anybody, really. So, Mike no closer. The Porsche's no further away, really. So, do you think it's a good time to start talking about the big event for the May Bank holiday weekend? Do you think we've got time for that?
Yeah, I don't see why not. We can keep our eyes and stop if we need to on this Friedman Dan battle. We can keep our eyes on the gaps of others as well. Just going to drop back to we'll just stick with this with Dan and Friedman. Dan deep, Friedman backs out of that. Hoffer's on the back of Carlos. So let's just keep our eyes on a few of these gaps here. Carlos is going to have some rear damage as well, so he looks like he's hit something and spun. Front end damage and rear end damage for Carlos there, and that bonnet lift or just flapping a little bit on Carlos's car, so definite damage, just touching the grass a little bit there. This could allow Hoffer a chance up Clay Hill. Not close enough at the moment, so we'll keep our eyes on that. Cloudon's passed Hooper, Sylph has passed Hooper. Can Dan Davis get Hooper? Evening to Chris in the chat. No, Hooper's off the limiter and gone before.
Hello, Chris.
Yes, Kelly. We can mention that of the Nordschleife event. Obviously, it's coming in just a couple of weekends.
It's getting closer and closer.
It is getting closer and closer. The 3rd and 4th of May, the Maybank holiday weekend, we're doing a 24-hour race for cancer research for charity around the Nordschleife. You can enter by joining the Discord server. The link is in there, whether that is on ours or on Team FBR's Discord server. It is an event set up by an FBR driver, or an FBR driver wanted us to set up this event due to things that had happened in his family's situation revolving around cancer. We have put on this event for him and for everybody, really, in terms of the whole of cancer research we're raising money for. We'll be starting to post links and things within the next couple of days going forward. Through there, Dan just braked on the grass a little bit, manages to keep it all okay. But it's going to be a huge event. 24 hours of the Nordschleife. We did it a few years ago, and it was brilliant to see. We raised just over £1,200 on that occasion. We're looking to raise even more than that this time around. Kelly's got his goal of 2,500, I think you said.
Yep. Yeah, I want 2,500 from everybody. I don't think it's a lot to ask. We did £1,200 back in lockdown. We're twice the community that we were then, if not bigger again. To be honest, we're a much bigger community, and I don't think £2,500 is a lot to ask. Now, the Nordschleife is going to be a challenge, right? And I think me and Dan were talking about it at the weekend while we were watching the dullest Grand Prix ever. Apart from, of course, the McLaren becoming the new Honda and cutting the grass was about the only interesting part of the whole race. Anyway, Me and Dan were talking about this, and it's going to be a challenge just to drive the Nordschleife for any period of time. One lap is hard enough. Me and Matt have both, for the last few weeks, saying we haven't put a valid lap in, and funnily enough, we've both managed to put a valid lap in around the Nordschleife, and I'll get back to that in just a minute. But Dan, Dan sideways. Oh, we caught that well.
I think that was a little bit too much curb from Dan there, because I don't think there was a tap from Friedman, but well held.
No, it wasn't close enough.
And because of the angle of that chicane, Friedman had nowhere to go and couldn't get past him. No. So well held, Dan. Well avoided, Will. And resume as you may.
That was one of those moments that just goes to prove that Oulton Park is so incredibly tight. When there is a mistake in front of you, you can't capitalise on it. But yes, the Nordschleife is a challenge in itself, and Daniel, I think, put it really well, that we're asking you to take on the challenge of
sorry,
the
Kelly.
Nordschleife.
Hoffer and Matt Wright side by side. Patrick Ledge just waiting in the wings. They bounce off the curbs, a bit of hip and shoulder with the Bentley and Nissan up Clay Hill. They go, and it's Hoffer on the inside, Matt Wright on that left-hand side. Patrick Ledger is just watching on. Wright gets through. Hoffer slots in between. And now Ledger's going to try and tuck up. Is he on the exit of Druids? No, he can't. Can he get that run down towards Lodge at the final corner? He's got nowhere to go because the Bentley's in the middle of the road. Maybe a late lunge? No, thinks better of it. Carry on, Kelly, sorry.
Yeah, that was a bit of action there just for the moment. We're asking the drivers, as drivers, to take on the challenge. Oh, Will Friedman on the curb. He's going to hit the wall, Matt. He's hit it.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, he's done it. I thought he was just going to get through there, but he managed to clip the wall. Just got on the grass on the outside, and that sends you off to that wall, just like we saw with O'Reilly. How much damage has he got? Is this the end of this battle between Friedman and...
That's put to bed. The problem is, can he keep Mike behind him? Because if that car has got a bit of a appalling front right, that could allow Mike Matthews to get past.
Absolutely, and I'm going to try and spit out this point in a minute if these drivers would give me a minute to say it. We're asking drivers, if you feel like the challenge of the Nordschleife is too much, we're asking you just to battle it for 24 hours, where people living with cancer have to battle it every single day. You know, so all we're asking from drivers is come and take the challenge, try and drive the Nordschleife for 24 hours. It's not going to be about winning, it's going to be about surviving around the Nordschleife. And we're asking the rest of you just to support us, give what you can. We know times are hard, but I want to try and get £2,500 for cancer research. So many of us have got people in our lives that have been affected by cancer. I'm no different. I lost a dear friend to me just recently to cancer. Hayley's mum passed away just 18 months ago with cancer. It affects so many of us in so many ways, and it destroys lives. So let's do something positive. Let's do something good within the community that we love so much. Let's take on the challenge. We'll all be here in the commentary box bit by bit. Matt, I think you're signed up to Team Audio Sport at SimPlay Racing to do your bit round the Nordschleife. I'm not going to drive. I'm not going to disgrace my team. Although, is that me contradicting what I said? No, I'll take on the challenge of commentating. And Gene, you lot up to keep you involved and keep you entertained. So. Again, let's go back. It's the May Bank holiday weekend. Qualifying, Matt, is on the Friday night, is it?
It is indeed. Just to interrupt you, Kelly, Patrick Ledge has just returned to the pit lane. Not sure why. I don't know if he's had the same moment and hit the wall, but he's now in the pit lane as well, so that could be another retirement.
Yeah, Dan now pulling away from Will Friedman, as you can imagine. But Mike not gaining on the back of Will Friedman with any kind of gusto. No. But certainly Dan pulling away now. Dan can relax for the first time. For the last 20 minutes of this race, he can relax. So we are really without much of a battle. Probably the closest now is Silth on the back of Cloudon, but that's kind of the way they've been all race, really.
Oh, Ben Rook's off. I'm just watching the Matt Wright. Oh, that's major damage. He's had a big off there. Just watching the Matt Wright Hoffer battle, and I saw Ben Rook was rejoining from the back end of the circuit. He has returned back to the pits. That was undrivable for him then. Chris is saying in the chat, anyone brave enough to try it on their own? Mike Matthews is. Mike Matthews is giving it a go. I believe Lexi our Pro-Am commentators trying to give it a go on their own. Now, you can do it solo, you can do it as a team of 2, team of 3, team of 4. That is your choice. Maximum of 4 drivers. As Kelly said, qualifying will take place on the Friday night. It will be a solo qualifying. Whoever qualifies cannot start the race. Unless you're obviously a solo driver. That is the way we're just trying to run things. We've always kept in mind Paul Williams, who has wanted to put this event on, wanted us to run the event. We have always asked what Paul Williams would like to have and see. That is one of the things that was mentioned and brought up. He was the one who wanted this event. Like Kelly said, so many lives have been lost or damaged, hurt through cancer. It is just, such a terrible illness. We did a bit 4 years ago, I think, nearly to the day of the next event. 4 years ago, I think it was a couple of days before that. That was, just a fantastic night. That was Project Cars 2. You could only put your AI in the car. That was brilliant in the fact that you and Dan did commentary. You and Dan did a driver swap in the actual seat of your house. Poor Haley having to put it with you two, tired and groggy and complaining about the car. But at the same time,
Dan was a complete dick through that one. No, never mind.
But at the same time, we've got teams of 4 this time, and not only a team of 4 for the likes of the team. Me and Dan are teaming up with Ben. I think we're looking for a 4th driver. And me and Dan are going to have stints in the commentary box, as well as getting some rest, as well as driving. So it's all going to be a big it's all a big event. If you want to get in the Discord chat, if you want to get in just to have a few words, say a few words, speak about the race, speak about anything, more than welcome to join us. Just drop us a DM before. We can drag you into that commentary box. Drivers, team members, even people watching.
Everybody.
Even people watching, we're all going to welcome it. We're going to be there live for the whole event as well. The qualifying will be streamed. The race will be streamed the next day.
Sorry, Matt, we got Carlos off. Carlos in the wall at the hairpin, went straight
Another one in the pits.
Straight to the wall. Yep, he went straight into the wall at the hairpin. I was on board with Hoffa, watching him get closer to Matt Wright, and then all of a sudden, Carlos went off into the wall. What's going on? These guys are lack of concentration here now. Is the challenge too much?
Well, they're dropping like flies at the moment, so it's torn up from Clouden. That's 3.5. Clouden's opened that gap up to 1.6 to Sylph. Sylph 3.7 clear of Hooper. Hooper well clear of Dan as Matt Wright has a wiggle with that Bentley chasing him down. Up Clay Hill they come. This is the closest fight with 15 minutes left on the clock at the moment. And that Bentley pushing Matt Wright through, but that is now Carlos, Ben and Ledger in the pits. That could be 3 retirements with O'Reilly making it 4.
Yeah, and my thinking is, and I don't know how much damage O'Reilly had because he hit the wall very, very hard, but if he had stuck with it, Matt, we've got 3 more in the pits with major damage, Could he have pulled himself back to at least 9th place?
Potentially.
We'll never know.
Exactly.
Oh, Matt Wright absolutely sideways. Probably what the GTR does best. It drifted round turn 1. He held on to it and didn't give Hoffa a chance there. But
Kelly, just keep talking about this fight. 2 seconds. Just keep talking about this fight. I need to mute 2 seconds.
Okay, and as I said, the GTR is struggling around the corners here, but just going back to the Nordschleife, not just a case of you getting involved in drivers and watching. Spread the word for us. Let everyone know that we're going to be live on YouTube. Just about everyone's got access to YouTube, and we'll be live. So tell all your friends. I've got the likes of Adam, who I mention regularly from the Kawasaki Centre, who are based next door to my workshops in Cornwall, and we chat regularly, and they follow the sim race and they follow SimPlay. So I'm going to get them to watch us on the night, and let's get some real viewings going as Matt Wright gets really deep out of Knickerbrook. Hoffa takes the inside line, tries to get a run on him, but this isn't happening. But he gets a little bit closer. Matt Wright starting to struggle with this one. Closest battle on track still, as Hoffa now tries to have a look towards the last corner, but no way through there. Matt seems to be struggling on these tyres now a little bit. I was just saying, Matt, I didn't know where you disappeared to, but not only getting involved in the in a 24 hour of the Nordschleife, but tell everyone else. Get everyone who maybe people who haven't normally watch us on SimPlay. Tell everyone else that this event's going on. Tell everyone else that you're involved in it and you're going to be doing it. And let's get people on YouTube just following us, and maybe they'll donate.
every donation's welcome, as Kelly said. You know, we know times are hard. Especially here in the UK. Dan Davis, drive-through penalty for track limits. That's only going to cost him 14 seconds, but it's going to cost him a place to Freeman and a place to Mike Matthews. Yep. So track limits, when he didn't really need to be taking the track limits, he didn't need to push too hard. He's got the gap to Will. Yeah, what a shame for Dan Davis there. But you know, like Kelly says,
falling apart here, isn't it?
Massively. It's just Oulton Park has just provided some drama tonight. But as Kelly says, you know, get in the chat, get people watching that don't normally watch. Any donations are welcome. Any chat is welcome. It's a 24-hour race. We're not going to be talking just solely about the race. We'll be doing what we're doing now. Yes, there's little cars on the grid now. This is a 24-hour race at a circuit that is ridiculously long. We will be just genuinely, you know, rambling on at times about certain bits. So,
and I'm sure the public are saying that surely Kelly and Matt could just talk this whole the way through. And we probably could. Yeah, we probably could, and we have before. So, but we want your input. We want things to talk about. Yeah. Yeah, we'll cover all kinds of ground in that 24 hours.
Anything.
It'll all get very random, like should pineapple be on pizza? You know what I mean? Yes. And things like that, and other first world subjects that we will cover, you know, and we'll talk sense about, of course, because pineapple's a fruit. Don't put it on your pizza, man. So things like that will be discussed, but we want you to get involved.
Whoa, jeez, Hoffa had an almighty send. I tell you what, King Kong versus Godzilla there, but the Bentley nearly destroyed the Nissan. Literally, wow.
Was that Hoffa harder on the brakes, or was that Matt Wright a little bit early on the brakes and trying to get it straightened up? I don't know which.
I'm going to say it was a combination of both, Kelly.
You know what I mean?
I want to say a combination of both there. Ledger and Carlos still in the pit lane, so that is definitely two retirements there. Ben's back out. Wow, that was incredibly close.
If those two come together, there'd probably be some sort of tsunami in China or something like that. Do you know what I mean? You know?
Like a big bang happening all over
exactly,
again.
Yeah. Like that was universal Armageddon, you know?
Yeah. That could have ended in such a bad way. But that is the charity event coming up on the 3rd and 4th of May. Join us live for every moment of it. You will not want to miss a single bit of that. And as I say, we're all going to be live at different moments. The stream will be separated into different sections as well. We're going to look to possibly change every 6 hours and do the stream in 4 parts, just to sort of, you know, be able to sort of do these bits and bring them to you as always. But yeah, we've all got to get rest. And obviously, I think it's only me and Dan from our PCs that we sort of bring you the Streamlabs with all the overlays action. So it'll be only me and Dan that'll be able to do it, so we've all got to get some pieces as well. Daz Automatic in the chat, great to see Darren Yo in there. Tomato is a fruit too, to make the sauce for the pizza. You see, that's a very interesting point from Daz. Tomato is a fruit, yeah. Tomato is a fruit, yeah. Tomato is a fruit.
Well, no, I don't know. Is tomato a fruit? I don't know about that, to be honest.
Tomato is a fruit.
Well, in some circles, that's I don't know.
Tomato is a fruit. Pineapple belongs on pizza, and Ginsters are a Cornish pasty. There we go.
Right, well,
that's
two of those are debatable. two of those are debatable. The last one is complete and utter rhubarb.
Tordok's lost the lead! Tordok's lost the lead! Whoa. Jamal Clouden leads this race by 2.7 seconds. I saw that Sylph was in half a second. Just assumed it was Clouden. Turnover. It's Tordok. He's dropped a 5-second lead to Jamal Clouden. And I can't believe this. He doesn't look to have damage at the moment. He doesn't look to have, so he's just had an off. This is giving Jamal Clouden the chance of his second race win of the week.
Absolutely, and that would be absolutely brilliant, and it just gives him my best catchphrase of the sun shines on a dog's arse some days, and it is absolute brilliant sunshine in Clouden world. Tardok with a rare mistake by the looks of it, and I don't know if he's got damage, but these drivers are falling apart.
Apart, massively so. Yeah. It is an interesting mix. I reckon there's a bit of grease on the floor, and the Bandits driver took that lead.
Oh, yeah. Well, he greased his way through and into the lead. It's going to be 2 out of 3 for Clouden.
Oh, my God, Hoffa. Sorry, Kelly. Hoffa's jinking left, right. Into Cascades they come again. They've braked sensibly this time. There's no big collision about to happen. But my, oh my, what a race we've got on our hands. There's 8 minutes left. Tordok's had a Sylph with Hoopert not far behind them. Dan's hunting Mike down. There's this fight between the two gigantic cars at the back. Carlos and Ledger have both retired. from this race. And I don't know what has happened. We used to call Laguna Seca Spooky Laguna back on the Project Cars 2 days, but whatever has happened at the back end of this race is spooky Oulton Park here.
Yeah, absolutely, and I don't think any of these guys are going to be good enough for the Nordschleife. They can't keep it together for an hour, let alone 24. But I'm sure they're better than that, and they will make it happen. Just thanks for that comment, Daz. It's something you could bring up if you join us in the chat at the 24 hours. We can have a long discussion about your right to have an opinion, but it being wrong.
Don't even get him started on cheese on toast, because he does that wrong as well.
It does likes a good debate. We've had a few of them over the years, and on track and off track. So we would love to see you get involved, Daz. Would you like to drive or join us in the commentary box? Either way, whatever your level, get involved. We got back onto the 24-hour again when there's still 6 minutes of this race left. And anything could happen.
You and Daz love a good debate on track. Donington Park in 2 weeks. Just saying.
Yeah. We're not on.
Just going to put that one out there. I'm not going to say what happened, but we'll just put that one out there. Let the comments come in now as Hoopert's gaining on the back of Sylph. So Sylph, who could have retaken an advantage in this championship over Tardock, has lost out to Tardock. Tardock's gone. So whatever mistake he had, he's pulled back away. And now Sylph's coming under pressure from Hoopert. Hoopert, for me, by the way, in this second race, the moves of the evening at the outside of the Hislop chicane.
I tell you what, it's going to be a big struggle to name a driver of the day this evening. There's been some great moves for some people, but there's also been some great mistakes as well. So
I mean, it's like I'm typing it up now, and Jamal's leading this race, but was last in race 1. Carlos won race 1 but has retired in this one, so I'm really struggling.
I'm swaying towards Will Freeman, but he did stuff in the wall.
I'm swaying towards Tobias Hoffer just for holding Dan back and attacking Matt Wright. I just think he's had if you're talking driver of the day for what they've done on the track, not just results but driving, I think that Bentley has been fantastic. Will Freedman, I've put down on the chat for the viewers. Hoffer, Hooper, Matthews, Freedman is what I've put. Speaking of Matthews, he's got Dan Davis breathing down his neck.
Yeah, and I was just about to say, Mike's had a great evening this evening, a podium in the first race, and he's kept it clean and kept it together in the feature race when all the others have been falling apart a little bit. And 6th place is nothing to be sniffed at, but he's got to hold on to it for the last 5 minutes. And you know what Dan's like when he gets a sniff of trying to recover from a mistake. He steps up a level, so Mike's going to be under pressure for the next couple of laps.
Remember,
can they hold it together?
If you haven't already, please hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and hit the bell to be notified, as well as checking out our fantastic sponsors. Design Manchester, producers of vinyl graphics, laser engraved gifts, mugs, printed clothing and much more, including SimPlay Motorsport merchandise. The link to their Facebook page is in the description. Also, Audio Sport. Indeed.
Buy some merchandise. Yes,
indeed.
Absolutely.
Audio Sport, also the manufacturers of the VW Transporter, T4 audio solutions and styling products. Head over to www.audiosport.co.uk. Their Facebook page is in there as well. And please, for the love of God, Sir Kelly stops asking, go and subscribe to their YouTube channel.
You know what? In the whole season, right, I've gained 3 subscribers. Come on, guys. Am I doing that bad a job? Don't watch videos. I don't care. You don't have to watch the videos. Just go over and press the subscribe button. That's all I want from you. Is it a lot to ask? Jesus, I want $2.5 grand out of you guys. I can't even get subscribers.
Hoopert. Sorry, Kelly, to butt in, but Hoopert right on the back of Sylph now. Tardock's not catching Cloud in this race, but Hoopert is putting pressure on Sylph. Dan putting pressure on Mike. Hoffer still putting pressure on Matt Wright. I just want to watch this because this is coming into Cascades again. Has Hoffer got the brakes right again? Matt Wright hasn't. He's gone a little deep. Hoffer fancies a look, not close enough. What about Dan and Mike? There as they were coming through Shell Oils. What about Hoopert and Sylph? There as they were. In fact, they're not. Hoopert's dropped back a little bit coming up Clay Hill. Whew, breathe. It's so much. Look at this. 3 fights on circuit to keep our eyes on.
We thought we were going to have a quiet one tonight, but that hasn't been the case. Oulton Park has certainly gave us some action. Maybe not loads of overtakes, but certainly some from scraps for position, that's for sure. And Hoffer again pressuring Matt Wright. Matt Wright doing a cracking job of staying in front, as is Mike Matthews, under pressure from the 10 times champion. Mike has just sucked the pressure up this evening. Did you put him on the drive of the day?
Put him on the drive of the day.
I'm going to give it. Do you know what? I'm giving it to Mike tonight.
He has done well. Don't forget, his former teammates, 3 times constructors winners over the last couple of weeks. Patrick Ledger's just come out the pit lane. That is still going to class as a retirement. 10 laps down. That you can't just come out for the final couple of laps. Otherwise, everybody would still score points. Yeah. That's a bit naughty, really. And that is a retirement. Bentley on the back of Nissan as well.
I'd just like to say, if Mike Matthews drops it now, I will not be held responsible for the commentator's curse or giving him driver of the day.
I did say to Mike, by the way, last week, it may have been Monday or last Thursday after you'd gone, I said, it's funny how you had 3 good seasons. Kelly comes back on the commentary.
Oh, sorry, Matt. Hoffer and Wright have come together. I swapped over and Hoffer had hit into the back of Wright. He stopped completely to give Matt Wright a chance to get back on track and get back in front of him. Where's Ben in all this? He's 4 laps down.
He's 4 laps down, yeah.
Yep, so I don't know how that started, but that was into turn 1. Hoffer was into the back of Matt, and as I say, I don't know how it started. Matt, I don't think hit the wall, just kind of slid one way and the other, maybe just grazed the wall. But Hoffer stopped and let Matt Wright go and back into position.
Yeah, was that inevitable? We've seen them being a bit crazy on the brakes at times. Leaders on the final lap of the race. Dan was jinking left and right there. He was doing anything to put Mike off in the braking zone, I reckon, there. And then clipped the grass as he was on the brakes, and I just thought, oh no, this could end up wrong, but Dan managed to hang on to it, and that would have been an interesting moment. I think Mike may have crashed through laughter if Dan had have dropped the car trying to jink it, but he's got 1 lap to get past him here. Hooper's dropped off the back of Sylph. Oh no, he's came back up to under a second actually, so he's trying last lap. Tordok's got within 1.5 seconds of Clouden, so Tordok is giving it full beans. Dan is looking on Mike as they cross to start their final lap of this race. I believe Hoffer's probably now going to stay behind that of Matt Wright for the remainder of this one. And in fact, I am. You keep your eyes on Dan and Mike a second.
Yeah, I'm on it.
I'm going to swap to the front because Tordok's past Clouden!
Oh, no.
I'm not sure what has happened there, but Tordok has just driven around the outside of Clouden and retakes the lead of this race on the final lap.
Oh.
Dan's
trying to go... Sorry, Matt, Dan having a good run around the outside of the hairpin, just messed it up on the traction zone. My PlayStation has done the thing of getting stuck again. I can't get off this battle, so luckily it's one of the best ones on track right at the moment. They're into Is this the last lap? No, this is
the last lap of the race. Tordok is going to come to the line, and he is going to win this race as they come up through D Elite now. Tordok wins with the fastest lap from Jamal Clouden. Sylph will take P3. Hooper 4th. Will Friedman's going to take a solitary P5 in this one, pretty much on his own, with all that damage to his name on his own as well. Not a bad result for Will Friedman after Dan's drive-through penalty. Really good for him. We are going to go back to the Dan and Mike fight in just a moment as Will Friedman now crosses the line there. Back to Dan and Mike. 1 corner to go. Mike's just got to hang on to it. Dan's tried to get a better launch out the corner, and Mike will hang on to that. That's going to be P7 for Mike Matthews in a good fight with Dan. Dan may be disappointed in himself for the drive-through, but I'm sure we'll be sort of thrilled with the fights he's had out there today.
Yeah, most probably. I would agree with that. Just going back to the chat, Daz Automatic saying he's probably working. That's a shame. We would have liked to have seen you on track. But I hope you join us somewhere along the line, Daz, for that. And I'm going to blame Damien Hibbs for the spectators' curse. We don't know what happened to Clouden, but he said, woo, go, Clouden, woo. So, Hibbs, I blame you for that.
Yeah.
Spectators' curse, it's real.
Yeah, I reckon there's going to be a couple of words from Clouden, beginning with B, that's possibly been said there. Either way, Tordok, Clouden, Sylph on the podium. We're going to jump over to the Discord chat to get the interviews started. So we'll be back in just a moment. And we are sat in the Discord chat for the final interviews of the day. So we'll wait for some drivers to come in.
They're coming in. Well, I thought they were.
But Kelly, what an interesting night's worth of racing that has been. That has been some fantastic action here at Oulton.
I wasn't expecting that. No, I wasn't expecting. No.
The back end of race 2 was just absolute carnage as well.
Yeah, absolutely. People dropping off left, right, and centre, and I wasn't expecting Oulton Park to give us that kind of action tonight. But it's certainly been a. There may have not been a lot of overtakes, but there's been plenty of action. That's for certain. No doubt about that.
Yeah, no doubt about that at all. We are joined by a couple of drivers. I am going to start with Mike Matthews first because race 1 podium, and it was a P2 for Mike Matthews. And in a season where or Peaceful Spirouette or Mike Matthews, whatever you want to call him, hasn't had the rub of the green, Kelly, him and Jamal, we said a few weeks back that their season really needs to get going. Both on the podium tonight. Mike, P2, home circuit, great result.
Yeah, I didn't expect that, to be honest, but clean getaway in race 1, and it's a lot easier to defend on this track. You just park it in the middle of the track, and whoever's going to try and pass you is risking going on the grass.
It looked
good clean race.
It looked like a fantastic scrap with Will Friedman in race 1. He was putting the pressure on you after the pit stops. And that's what it was about, wasn't it? How much pressure can you take and not make them mistakes?
Yeah, exactly. I thought straight away on the offset, I thought I'm going long because I think a lot of people are diving to get out the traffic, so I'm going to try and do an overcut and go long. It pretty much worked. I think there was a few errors in the boxes. I nailed my pit in race 1, and that kept me out in front. And then it was just defending. Then race 2, overshot my pit, messed it up.
I about 5 minutes to the end of race 1, Mike, I said to Matt, let's stop talking about you and leave you to it, because we know in the past that we have cursed so many of your races. Certainly in the early days, it was almost a running joke for a long, long time. So I said to Matt, let's leave him alone. Let's leave him get on with it. But, I mean, you've got my driver of the day tonight, because I think the whole evening you drove impeccably. It looked to me like very little mistakes, a calm head, cool kind of driving. You satisfied with that performance?
Yeah, I came in struggling. My best was a 33.4 coming into this week. At this track ever here, so I'd beat that only just, but when you're seeing the guys banging in 32s and Pro-Am pretty much 32.9, it's like I'm off the pace here. But no, I think I managed to get a race without spinning. How good's that? It's about time in this season. A bit late, but hey
it's like trophies all round, isn't it?
But to me, this is a championship win.
Oh, brilliant. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I'm very happy for you. Absolutely.
Obviously, you go back to last season, Mike, where you nearly had the race win, had that moment with Michael Harris where you dropped the car. Bit of good performance tonight. Does that kind of turn around? Do you reflect on last season's performance? Different temperatures and conditions, obviously, but do you look back at that and think, I felt quicker, I felt better tonight? Just the fact that there's a few quicker drivers out there have just meant that the results haven't been there.
Yeah, I think racing against these quicker drivers, it pushes you. It makes you go, right, where am I losing half a second in one sector? And it makes you go, right, it's clearly my lines. It's not the setup. It's me. And it just makes you try and concentrate on being a better driver. And the last few weeks, as you know, I've struggled mentally and on the game. I've just not been in the right groove. Tonight, I've come in it clean head. And yeah, I'm quite happy.
Well, Mike, congratulations tonight. Watkins Glen next week. What can you do around there? Obviously, final 2 races of the season, Watkins Glen and Donington Park. What can you do at Watkins?
I've only ran Watkins briefly in testing in this car, and I like the circuit. Don't know if I like it in this car yet. I feel I'm off the pace, but you never know. Let's see what a bit of testing can do.
Indeed. Well, Mike, congratulations tonight. You have been given the fans' vote for driver of the day, as well as Kelly's vote for driver of the day.
Better than a win.
Better than a win, that. Thank you very much. I voted for Will. I thought Will had a cracking race.
He did.
He did. I honestly thought Dan was getting me in the end then as well.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations, Mike. P3 and P5 tonight. Well done. And we can
Cheers,
now
thank you.
unmute the fan. I assume it was the fan anyway, of Jamal Clouden. Jamal, I don't know whether to commiserate you or congratulate you, because that was so close to being a race win, but it was also such a good P2.
Yeah, my force feedback decided to die towards the end. I had no force feedback for at least a lap. Quick thinking just made me go down a setting. Lucky enough, I was only one setting away from getting the wheel back to where it was. Final lap, it decided to go again. Hence why I missed the chicane, and then Tarduk was able to get past me again. So I mean, I can't complain, because the car was just on form. Shout out to Hibbs, because he did help me this round, because I was like, I have to admit, the car was there, but I thought, do you know what, seeing that lap time he done last night, I was like, yo, let me see what this is saying, and boy, was it quick. So yeah, man, shout out to him.
Jamal, I was absolutely gutted. I was kind of hoping you were going to do the GT4 win and a GT3 win all in 1 week, and I'm absolutely gutted that it kind of went a little bit pear-shaped for you. But I actually, you're thanking Hibbs, and I'm sure that is justified. But I blamed him because I had to blame somebody, and it wasn't my fault this time. So it was the spectator's curse, other than the commentator's curse, because he was on the YouTube going, go Cloud and woo woo woo, and unfortunately all went a little bit pear-shaped. So I'm blaming Hibbs for the loss of the win, but of course I'm only joking. Mate, you seem to have this one dialed tonight, didn't you? And this week,
Yeah.
You felt really comfortable tonight, yeah?
Yeah, I was feeling proper confident this evening. Again, car was just on form. It was just on rails. Quali, I was surprised I was even able to get P2.
Yeah.
I was expecting O'Reilly or like Sylph to like go above me, even Dan, because I mean Dan was looking quick all week in testing. I was quite surprised that I was able to kind of stay within like a 5-second gap to Tarduk. When I saw him drop it, I was like, oh, okay, game changer, because he basically had that win in the bag, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, yeah, my wheel just decided to give up on me at the last second, which was a shame. But you know what? I can't grumble. You know what I mean? To be able to split the MSA boys, I take that as a win.
It was a good drive from you all round. Good qualifying, good drive. Well done.
I'm going to assume you felt inspired by the fact that Kelly found a BMW for under £800 on Facebook pre-race to get such a good result tonight.
You could say that, but overall, I'm happy.
Talk us through.
I mean, I can't grumble.
Good.
Sorry, dude. Talk us through a little bit about race one. Just talk us through the incident that happened that dropped you down to the bottom. Just talk us through what happened from your perspective.
I had a good run on leisure. I had the outside line and I got squeezed a little bit too much on the grass. I had a bit of dirt and I knew I went a little bit wide going into Knickerbrook. The rear tire was just on the grass and just sent me into a spin and I just couldn't catch it back again. So pretty much all she wrote.
Fair enough. Watkins Glen next week. I know you like the Glen. What can you do?
I know McLaren's decent around there.
It's on rails, absolute rails.
Yeah, like Kelly said, it's on rails. The elevation changes and stuff like that. The McLaren does like those sort of tracks, but again, the bus stop it has a bit of a funny moment at times going over the bus stop chicane. I mean, the Mustang I know can eat that curb fairly well, so we'll see. I'll
tell you something. I'll tell you something I found about that off air. I'm not giving it away, but I'll tell you something I found about the chicane, how to handle it. But not my words. It was given to me by a better driver. But I'll tell you a tip about that off air. We don't want to give it to everybody, do we?
No, and if you want, if you want the tip that I gave Kelly, I'll let you know off air as well, Club. So don't worry. I can only assume that when Kelly said better driver, it was me that gave him the clip, but the tip. But, funnily
enough, Matt, no, it wasn't. No.
To be fair, Kelly. To be fair, the way, probably right.
Yeah. Without swearing, yeah. Same back to you. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's been Oulton Port. That's been all she's wrote. I forgot where I was going there. That's been Oulton Port.
I know. Yeah.
That's been all she's wrote. Kelly gave the driver of the day to Mike Matthews. The chat gave their vote for Mike Matthews. I'm going to go to Tobias Hoffer with a great shout out to Hooper, to Clouden, to Carlos,
Friedman.
to Mike, and to Will Friedman. Great shout. I just think Tobias Hoffer, defensively and attacking tonight, he has been phenomenal. And he's in the Bentley. Let's not forget, he's a bit underperforming in this Pro Series. So I think he thoroughly deserves a shout-out for that one. A great drive for him. Great night's worth of racing all around here. GT4s, Pro-Am and Pro. Once again, we end the week on a great end of a Pro race. Imagine if there was the full grid to talk about each week. That would be absolutely hectic. But we head stateside for the penultimate rounds of the season. Dan Davis will be live on Tuesday evening for the GT4s in their penultimate rounds at Watkins Glen. That'll be from 8 p.m. BST with Dan Davis live there. Alexa Marshall will be back for Pro-Am on Tuesday evening, where Kelly Davis will be back on the circuit in that one. And then myself...
trying to emulate James Hunt and John Lacey and win a race on your birthday. So join us on Wednesday night to see how royally I can cock that up.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think I need to say any more, to be fair.
No, nothing more worth saying, is there? So I might not be very happy next Thursday on comms, so we'll see.
Well, what there is on comms, there will be sweet and sticky. We will be back in your box. Kelly will be that one more year experience that he can bring us his knowledge and wisdom into the booth next Thursday night for that Pro Championship.
Absolutely.
As we head into that penultimate round. I haven't had time to work out the drop scores and do the points tonight, so I will get them sorted. You'll be able to see them on our social medias of Instagram and Facebook to keep your eyes on the final championship standings, as well as join our Discord for all things SimPlay. But that has been another week of action here in Britain. We come back to the home of SimPlay Motorsport in 2 weeks' time, but we head to the Big Apple next week for Watkins Glen. We'll see you there. Goodbye.
Good night.